themselves Monday.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
People extended their day, their
They
weekend.
tend to. They figure it out and figure, okay, Tuesday's a holiday. Monday's also a holiday.
Let me just stay.
And then there is no better time to figure out such things. COVID will give you the perfect excuse.
What excuse would you say there?
COVID. You see, once you mention COVID, you don't really need to explain anything.
Just say,
I heard there was COVID at the river, so I could not cross.
Actually, first of all, where I come from, the wind, COVID. It's airborne. COVID.
okay.
It brought in some COVID.
But in some COVID.
Hey.
And also, I went to a church, and I was told that people who had been there last week had COVID. But I didn't know when I got in, so I couldn't just come until I got tested. Ah, man.
Quisha.
You're talking about excuses and reasons?
Quisha.
COVID provides you with the perfect platform to figure out and conjure up anything. And you speak it as though it's the only truth on the planet.
Okay. Welcome to the show, everybody, and happy Mashujaa Day. Today we'll be dedicating this show to our everyday heroes, and we'll be seeking to identify who is this. I mean, when you talk about Mashujaa Day, for a long time when this holiday was Kenyatta Day, it went with the freedom fighters. It was like Mau Mau Day
Yes.
and Freedom Fighters Day.
There was
and
a Mau Mau Day,
and
right?
No, there wasn't.
And the Kapenguria 6 Day. I mean, all of that was Kenyatta Day combined. Right?
Okay.
Now it's Mashujaa Day, and there is a tendency still to look back at the heroes of the bygone era. But we also sometimes forget everyday heroes of today. And we'll be looking to identify some of those heroes of today. And we'll ask you to participate. At the same time, we have to remember that there's going to be an event at the Gusii Stadium in Kisii County today. This is where the national celebration is taking place. The president will be there and the national leadership will be there. We'll follow that up later in the day and discuss it tomorrow on what happens there. But remember, we have COVID-19. COVID. Where are we now with COVID?
Right, so there is COVID still is a thing in the world. And we're looking now at global numbers of 40,639,204. We've also seen some declarations come out from certain countries. Most recently, Ireland has gone into now a total lockdown. And probably until December, they will see various establishments shut because of the rising cases of COVID. Now, if we look at what they have realized in the last couple of days, as of yesterday, Ireland had over 1,000 new cases. And this is definitely up from what they've been seeing in the recent past. Just the country as an example in terms of what is being done. 50,993 total coronavirus cases in the country with 1,852 deaths. Now, things had staved off and then started to rise around the same time that we saw them in other countries in the Western Hemisphere. With what they're also calling and acknowledging as the second wave, they now have 1,031 cases recorded yesterday. And unfortunately, no deaths recorded yesterday, but with what they've seen so far, we're at the lowest point at the end of the summer. They were seeing 200 cases, 100 cases, 38 cases, and then things took a sharp rise. And they're seeing this now, and this gives, again, rise to the decision having been made to shut things down. And we're not talking about partial lockdown. We're not talking about maybe we'll see. They're saying absolutely shut it down. And if we can cast our minds back to when we had the ambassador to Kenya from Ireland on the phone, and what did she say to us? We're going to start a phased reopening of things. And should we see that things go in a different way, we're going to have to take measures. And we can see a direct result of them seeing things change and taking action on the same thing. So total lockdown in Ireland. Kids have gone back home. Establishments been shut for 6 weeks, definitely. And then they'll see what will happen thereafter. So here we are.
Thereafter is now the peak of winter.
Yes. A very, very cold winter is what is forecasted for this year in this part of the world. So likely to see more cases of this. So look, one example of, what is happening in that part of the world and what is likely to continue to happen. More and more countries will hear from this. We already know that France is in partial lockdown, as is Italy, as is Spain, and as is the UK, and is likely to see this go from partial to full if the cases continue to rise. The United States still continues to record high numbers, 8,456,000. Yesterday we had 7,594,000 cases in India. I'm sorry, 332,000 in India. Today, 7,594,000, an increase of 266,000 cases between yesterday, this time, and now.
So India is catching up with the US.
India is catching up with the US, just a million shy of that, and likely to get there in the coming days. So the numbers are rising, guys. We also see the numbers
coming
rising
out
in
of
Kenya.
India as these numbers rise? I mean, what is it being attributed to?
Are they testing more?
Look, if we're looking at the numbers have in India, for example,
Yes.
the tests continue. They've always been rapid in their testing. They've tried to do as much as possible. They now have done 95 million tests.
Those are many
around the
people.
country. Yes, those are many people. And from those 95 million, 7.5 million have come out positive. And the testing continues. They have said, we've seen coming out of the Prime Minister's office that they were not being shy about it. They wish that they had tested more earlier on. And they're also seeing that a number of people that they have tested are in need of critical care. And this is where the problem is. Whereby the majority of people are asymptomatic, they have quite a number of people who need hospital medical attention. And this is what is worrying for them. The same thing we see in Brazil, whereby they wish that they had tested. The Prime Minister's office again said in India that what they focused on was getting people to stay home at some point and focused on the economic aspects of COVID without really looking at, are people actually getting infected and are we taking care of them?
But you see,
And this they cite as a mistake that they made.
much as their wishes that we keep hearing coming from the two countries, their approach to COVID was extremely different.
Absolutely, whereby Brazil just kind of ignored everything.
They
and
followed the way that the US
Bolsonaro,
president,
yes, they did, yes.
the Brazilian president followed the same path that the US president had followed.
Yeah.
India took it seriously from day one.
They did.
Yes. Maybe they took time to marshal the resources to actually do what they're doing now, but they did not make light of COVID. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
Yes.
I'm actually looking at news here from the Times of India. It says, and this is an update about 15 minutes ago, in the last 30 days since COVID-19 cases peaked in India, the growth rate of infections has more than halved from 92% in the month prior to September 18th to 42% since then, a drop of 50 percentage points.
Yes.
So actually now we are
The high
seeing like it's
numbers
an
that we are
increase,
seeing,
but
they were much,
they were much higher, and even the infection rate is reducing.
And you see, this is something that they can say definitively because of the numbers they have
They're
tested.
testing.
Right.
Yes.
This is the thing.
So they're getting a much clearer picture.
Because the information is fueling the decisions that then they're able to make. And they're saying that we're not just going to walk into this blind, but we need to test and see what's actually going on. The way you can have such reports come out into the public is because you have an idea of what's going on because you've actually been testing.
The advantage that America has had, America has always been testing.
Yes, from the beginning.
From the beginning, their testing capacity and rate has always been high.
One of the things that Trump said about COVID that was actually true. He said, we're testing, and he was right. They
were
been
testing.
vigorously so.
Yes.
About the other things concerning COVID, totally different. But testing, that one they've done. With 127,057,107 tests having been done in the US so far. Goes to show.
Almost a third, if not, a third of the population.
Yeah, 331 million. So, yes, they have been. Rwanda is allowing all children back to school now. Previously, it was candidate classes, but now they've opened and everybody can go back to school with a keen eye to see.
What's the height? What's the period that they have given between one opening and the other?
A month.
See.
Yeah. A month ago, the candidate classes went back. And yesterday now, you have children of all classes now going back to school. So it will be interesting to see what they will do. But again, keeping very tight reins on any information that they hear of a spike here or there to see how they would curb things.
We'll discuss what's happening in the country because we have seen a
important.
number of ICU cases in Kenya rising, talk of maybe a second shutdown coming. We have seen now the Ministry of Health has brought out the big guns again. The CS himself is back out to give the daily updates. Maybe it's an indicator of something. He's actually now coming to remind people, come on, you've been joking. I just took a break and you thought COVID has gone because of you can't see me no more. I'm here. You see me, see COVID.
I am the COVID police.
6:15. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up. If John will put up the screen, we'll be able to look at who is online right now. Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
When it comes to bridging the information gap to help strengthen the agricultural sector in our country, you can always rely on Farm Kenya to be the glue holding everything together. And now, courtesy of the partnership with Farmster, things couldn't be better. Introducing Farm Kenya platform, and it goes like this. Our SMS service will help farmers upload and publish their products without smartphones, while the Farm Kenya app will allow buyers locate, purchase from, and engage the farmers directly. So if you're a farmer, send a free SMS to 40446 and connect with buyers free for life. That's 40446. If you're a buyer looking for local produce, download the Farm Kenya app from Google Play Store or the Apple Store for free. Remember, ukulima sio shamba pekee. Ukulima ni digital. Ukulima ni Farm Kenya platform.
Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Brought to you by Farm Kenya and Farmster, working to secure your growth. When it comes to bridging the information gap to help strengthen the agricultural sector in our country, you can always rely on Farm Kenya to be the glue holding everything together. And now, courtesy of the partnership with Farmster, things couldn't be better. Introducing Farm Kenya platform, and it goes like this. Our SMS service will help farmers upload and publish their products without smartphones, while the Farm Kenya app will allow buyers locate, purchase from, and engage the farmers directly. So if you're a farmer, send a free SMS to 40446 and connect with buyers free for life. That's 40446. If you're a buyer looking for local produce, download the Farm Kenya app from Google Play Store or the Apple Store for free. Remember, ukulima sio shamba pekee.
Hey, we're looking at mostly cloudy
Ukulima ni
conditions
digital.
this morning at 16. We'll go to highs of 23 and lows of 14 today. Nakuru is mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 21 with a chance of thunderstorms later. It's a bit of a drizzle around the country. And in Njeri, it's cloudy at 16. Chances of rain high as well. The high will be 22 and lows of 14. Cloudy conditions in Eldoret, highs of 21 and lows of 12. And thunderstorms are in the forecast. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 26 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Malindi is partly cloudy at 26, highs of 29 and lows of 25, and also a chance of rains later on. It looks like a wet weekday going into Kisumu. 21 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 26 and lows of 19. It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 16. Also, we're going to see some thunderstorms here later on. All right, Kampala looks like it's going to enjoy some rain as well. Highs of 24 and lows of 19, which is current conditions, and mostly cloudy. Clear skies in Dar es Salaam at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 22. Let's look into Johannesburg, where it's 18 degrees and clear skies, highs of 31 and lows of 16. Lagos is partly cloudy at 31 degrees. We'll see lows of 24 today. Let's look into Beijing, where it's well into Tuesday evening. Haze covers the city, 14 degrees, highs of 21 and lows of 8. London is partly cloudy at 13, highs of 18 and lows of 12. While Paris has clear skies at 10, getting well into the morning, we will see some showers with highs of 17 and lows of 10. And finally, in New York, it's clear skies at 16, highs of 19, with showers expected later and lows of 15.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
20 minutes after 6. Very good morning to you. This is Mashujaa Day edition of the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation for everybody who's online. John, please put up the screen so we can see who's up, who's online right now on Spice FM KE, Facebook, on YouTube and Twitter. If you can see that, then we can appreciate and acknowledge everybody. All right. So, what is today's proverb, CT?
Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Adi? Ada?
Okay, let's start again. And stop speaking in tongues. Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Okay.
In the abundance of wise counsel, there is much wisdom. That is the book of Proverbs.
Okay. Chapter 20, verse 10. Sawa.
This isn't the moment where you go around inventing books of the Bible.
Chapter 20, verse 10.
Yes, or he says, which book are you reading from? The book of Abednego.
Zechariah.
Which chapter? 100. Verse 4.
But that book does exist.
The person exists.
They just change things.
No, they removed
For
some
example, some truths like Jonah swallowed the whale.
Yes. There was
And then
that
they
little
turned it around and said that the whale swallowed Jonah.
Jonah was a whale swallower. Okay.
Let's look at today's headlines, shall we? It has to be with this. What do you want to start? Go, City.
Okay. Problems in Nakuru. Level 5 hospital health workers protested the high level of COVID infection-19 among medical personnel at the facility yesterday. 22 health workers have contracted the virus, leading to their complaints on availability of protective devices and poor fumigation. They also raised concerns about mixing COVID-19 patients with the rest of the cases of as cases of infections rose in the county.
How many healthcare workers in one hospital? 20.
2 health workers have contracted the virus. And then there is also an allegation that they are mixing COVID-19 patients with the rest.
Wow.
So can you see how this thing is going to spread?
That's a big one. That's a big issue. There's something that's really happening in Nakuru that, it deserves a lot of more attention, even from the national government. I'm sure the national government is focusing its attention there, but making it clearly visible that this is happening in Nakuru County. Nakuru County has 99 new cases yesterday, still leading in infections, followed by Busia, Wasingishu, Meru, Mombasa, Kiambu, each with 10, Murang'a 8, Nakuru 7, Kajiado 3. This is a big number. And if you look at how many people are, in critical care in Nakuru, at the Nakuru level 5, then that's a big one. That's a big issue. If you look at what is being reported now on the page 3 of the Standard, the number of virus patients in ICU rises. The number of COVID-19 patients needing intensive care has been increasing progressively. Yesterday, there were 39 people in ICU facilities across the country. And the Ministry of Health says that all these patients are in need of supplemental oxygen support. This is an increase from the 28 that were in ICU on Sunday. So
Yes.
11 people went into ICU yesterday.
The issue in Nakuru, as you say correctly, requires further attention. Yes. But what I wonder is, if we were to be given a correct blow-by-blow details of what's happening in the other county, we may find that Nakuru is not the only county that is facing these problems. Yes. Let me sort of dovetail into what happened in Nairobi. Remember, Nairobi went all out and wanted to test as many people as possible.
Yep.
Okay, we are informed that 4,000 people, this is page 2 of the Business Daily, 4,000 people turned out for the COVID testing. Okay? And this was free and voluntary testing. Yep. And Embakasi North Sub-County had the largest number of turnout, that at 464, followed by Makadara at 387, then Kibra 364, Dagoretti South, 315. Kamkunji and Westlands, 273 each. Embakasi East at 225. Kasarani at 223. Langata at 217. Embakasi West, 202. Embakasi Central County, 197. Dagoretti North, 186 from Ruaraka, 168 from Dagoretti North. Starehe, 162. Roysambu, 132.
4,093 people turned up for those tests. It's not bad.
No, if you're considering a beginning, these are people who ordinarily would not have been tested if this facility had not been provided.
Yep.
So it means it might actually be interesting. It might be, no, not interesting. It might be worthwhile to do this again.
Yeah.
Yes.
More often.
Second time around, you are likely to get more people.
They're saying that the results are expected to come out today. So let's see what comes out today in that. And then we also get to understand exactly what the situation is around the country. But that is a very high number of people who are requiring critical care, and proper attention is to be given to this. There's another story here, page 11 of the Standard. A man is in battle with the hospital over abandoned patient. The husband of a patient that Karen Hospital claims was abandoned at the facility has rejected a request to transfer her to a public hospital. Michael Omusula has instead accused the hospital of lying that he abandoned his wife over a 23 million shilling medical bill, claiming that it's the institution that went behind his back to file the suit seeking permission to transfer Jacqueline Nelima to KNH, or home-based care. As a family, we are opposed to the hospital's application to transfer my wife. As a husband and next of kin to the patient, I was never informed of the intention to transfer my wife, despite the fact that I have been visiting the hospital since February this year when she was admitted. So she's been in hospital since February up to now. She has accumulated a bill of 23 million shillings.
She's been there for 30 days?
Since February.
Since February. 23 million.
23 million shillings since February.
Wouldn't it
this
be
year.
interesting
That's
to
8
find out
months.
how the details of what was performed, what was done, so that it could actually get to 23 million?
So this is what took her to hospital. Nelima was admitted to the facility on February 16th, 2019 actually, after developing complications during a cesarean section delivery. The hospital says they've not been able to trace her relatives while the bill continued to accumulate. That's what the hospital says.
She went for a C-section.
She went for a CS. I mean, she was admitted after developing complications during a CS.
Okay.
And since then, according to the hospital, they have not been able to trace her relatives. The husband says, I've been coming here on a daily basis. They argue that due to the complications, Nelima was transferred to HDU. Since last year, she has been undergoing physiotherapy and treatment for recurrent chest pains. But the husband, in his response, claims the hospital is trying to cover up for the negligence that led to the complications, insisting his wife was in bad condition and should not be transferred from Karen to Kenyatta National Hospital.
She was taken because of a complication. And then clearly things got more complicated. So given what she needed, and the suggestion here is that the HDU was the best place for her to be.
At that point, she needed to be taken into the high dependency unit.
Yes. But do they explain what it is that required this HDU to be transferred to the HDU?
Yep. So they're saying that she developed now complications from the CS that made her now be taken to HDU. Exactly what kind of the nature of complications is not reported in this story, but that's what led her to go into the HDU. And since then, she has been undergoing physiotherapy and treatment because she has a recurrent chest pain since February last year.
Wow.
Last year.
You know, this is a hospital, so if you have recurrent chest pain, surely they should have figured it out since last year by now.
You would think.
Well, I would hope so. It's a
You would
hospital.
hope so, yeah.
It is a hospital, and people go to hospitals when they have health complications that they don't understand.
Yep.
Sure.
Yes.
But you have a lot of things that happen, I mean, through all of this, misdiagnoses and things like this. I mean, when we're looking at cancer in depth, the gentleman who thought that what he had was allergies all
And
the
yet-
time, and he was going to hospital for a year literally every 3 weeks in hospital. And he was told, okay, well, here's this allergy medication, only for him to find out that he had esophageal cancer. And that was after a year and a half. So you would hope that, yes.
By that time, the cancer certainly
had spread. I mean, it was in stage 4. So, and you have a doctor who's looking at you every 3 weeks for a year. And they tell you that what you have is an enlarging of your mucous membranes. And it's really not that.
You know, this is, one hears of these cases. They are reported, some are not reported, but you hear of them. That someone was misdiagnosed. It happens, it's human error.
Yeah, for sure.
Up to that point, it is a situation that is manageable. It's what happens after that. Whether those responsible, whether it's the hospital, whether it's the doctor who was in charge, and whether they're able to actually understand and admit that they may have made a misdiagnosis. And then after that, if there's a disagreement, drama will follow.
Apparently, actually, she was not brought to the hospital after complications. She had been going to the hospital for antenatal clinics. The doctors had confirmed the pregnancy was going well. And then on 16th of February last year, Nalima went for elective CS. The doctors approved it after doing medical checkups to confirm that the baby was fine. After waiting for 2 hours, the husband says he was informed that his wife had developed complications and was rushed to the ICU. He was told that she had lost a lot of blood, but they were assured that she'd be discharged after 2 days, but it later emerged that she had a brain injury and that recovery would take 2 months. That became a nightmare after 1 month in the ICU, and she has been in the hospital ever since.
That one requires explanation. It could be a medical condition that one had not understood or had not figured out, and with the condition that she was in, it's sort of like, but more details have to be, one has to understand more details about this case.
The whole issue here is that there's a dispute. The hospital now says that they want to transfer this patient to Kenyatta National Hospital, public facility. The bill is 23 million. The husband says, absolutely no way. I haven't even been informed that you guys want to transfer this patient. She is my wife. I brought her here. I've been coming here. Hospital says, we've been trying to trace relatives in vain. 28 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads, and then we'll be back. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice FM, Malindi. Spice up your life.
Expected traffic is flowing beautifully on Mombasa Road today. Not much in terms of traffic this morning. It's actually looking pretty good. I don't expect that it's going to get any crazier this morning. Most people are at home. Probably see an influx of traffic later on in the day, but we're going to keep an eye on this because you never know. This is Nairobi after all. We'll take a look outside of the city as well, where we'll probably see all roads heading in a westerly direction, but we'll take a look at that in a bit. If you get stuck somewhere, which I don't think you will, let us know. But for now, it's looking pretty good, and I'm assuming that most people are still in bed at this point, or at least hanging around their homes. And if you are going to town or anywhere around, you should be able to get there in record speed. We need you to be careful, though. The roads are slippery. It did rain overnight, and we don't want any accidents on this Mashujaa day. Let us know what you see, Spice FMKE, on Twitter, or text us on 40127.
Spice FM, Njeri. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
26 minutes to 7 o'clock. We are looking at the big headlines. Happy Mashujaa Day, wherever you tuned in this morning. If you're in Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, Njeri, 90.9, Malindi, 97.7, or online. Good morning. Other headlines, Nduh.
Yes. So, I lost it.
It was right there.
It was.
You had it right
keep looking.
there.
Keep looking.
And then it has left me.
Are you sure you look at the right paper?
I am. Okay, so here we go. Women leaders demand 50-50 sharing of posts. Women leaders allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga have opposed any attempt to scrap the 47 women representative positions in the yet-to-be-released Building Bridges Initiative report. Under the banner of, wait for it, Embrace, the leaders say they will support BBI only if the women's positions are retained and more slots created at the Senate. They also want the BBI experts to fit the elusive two-thirds gender rule once and for all. The leaders, drawn from a cross-section of political parties and led by Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru and Senate Deputy Majority Leader Fatuma Dulo,
Yep.
exuded confidence that there would be a permanent solution to the gender representation, adding that since Parliament had been unable to enact legislation, it was time to fix it under the BBI. So it looks as though the BBI is a cure-all for everything. Even this gender thing that you can't figure out when you've given you the opportunity, BBI will sort it out. We are looking for 50-50, BBI will fix it. So
50-50.
yes.
50-50.
Yes. 50%.
I want to see how this one sort of like works out. But again, I really do want to see how it's going to work out because this is clearly a fishing expedition. The two-third, you see, you have the two-third gender rule.
Yep.
Then you're going throwing in 50-50.
Yep.
Okay, so you've gone beyond the two-third gender rule.
Yes.
In fact, what I was thinking of as you're reading, I was wondering, okay, so what else do they want?
Well, let's see if there were other demands that were made because it seems like there's a recipe here. No, actually, those would be the
That's
two
mainly it.
main things, yes, that they're looking for.
Remember
here.
the initial BBI report that had come out? There had been some suggestion of ensuring that every candidate for governor and deputy must be 50-50. Then there has also been talk, I don't know whether it's contained in the BBI report, that we have 94 senators, 2 senators per county, 50-50.
2 senators per county?
Yep.
2 senators per county?
Yes, 50-50.
1 mil, 1
This work that they currently do, divided into 2.
Yep,
So what do they do?
they Senate.
It's now a verb, in case you didn't know. They've been senating all along.
No, actually, we do understand what the functions are, but I guess it was a suggestion. And as with suggestions, it's something that can be debated.
One way of curing it, I mean, instead of waiting until you elect 47 and then you look at filling the gap with nominations to meet the two-third gender rule, why not just declare it from the very beginning that every county shall elect a man and a woman into the Senate? And then now you have Senate being 50-50. With that, then you look at the National Assembly, and now a formula can then come out and sort the National Assembly. You look at the entirety of Parliament, you are likely to have the two-third gender rule sorted.
Well, clearly, we are in for an interesting time debating some of these issues. But then also, politicians are wise in the way they bargain. You throw that particular discussion onto the table, and you know very well what your minimum will be.
Yep.
But for purpose of discussion, this is what we
Push
like.
it.
Yes, push the agenda. Kenya Power Monopoly suit flops.
Yeah?
Yes.
Who had taken a suit?
The one and only.
Okay, Umtata.
Yes. Okay. Now, activist Okia Umtata and Eunice Nganga wanted the court to compel the Competition Authority, CAK, to break up Kenya Power and Lighting Company. For the longest time I thought it was Lightning. KPLC, and to end its dominance as required by the Energy Act. They also wanted an order compelling the Energy Regulatory Commission, ERC, to license other companies to distribute electricity in Kenya without coverage limitation. I thought this was a nice suit, personally. However, guess what? Guess what dropped their particular ball? But Justice Macau faulted them for failing to exhaust petition mechanisms provided by the ERC before moving to court.
Technicality.
That's it. It's not that he didn't see their point of view.
Technicality.
They had not exhausted all the avenues that are laid down by law before they got to court.
There is somewhere that the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authorities bill says if you want to follow this, petition this and the other, form a team.
Yes.
If you have not exhausted that, then
Essentially, it's like if you feel that you've been aggrieved by the police, go to the nearest police station to report. Yes.
there has to be an OB number.
There has to be an OB number before you can take it forward. So all the other details
If
you
you've
may
been
have,
beaten and you don't have a P3.
my friend, you are not beaten. You fell off a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
well, the law is the law. This
Yeah.
is the and if you do want a situation where you can be heard, I think it is incumbent upon you to ensure that you followed due process, as they call it, before you take any matter to court.
True.
Because a diligent judge will look at it and say, okay, these guys have a point, but have they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's properly? And in this case, those legal I's and T's were not appropriately addressed.
Bas.
Okay, so just a little detail. A spike in coronavirus infections has cast doubt on the anticipated full reopening of schools on Monday, with representatives of teachers and parents now urging caution. Same representatives. Grade 4, Standard 8 and Form 4 students have been in school since October 12th, and the rest of the learners are expected to be recalled after 2 weeks, subject to a consistent reduction in the number of the infections reported worldwide. Nationwide, because worldwide is a totally different story, right? Of those infections now recorded nationwide. We've seen a rise in these infections or rather reported cases over the last couple of days, and it looks like the plan is in jeopardy because the Ministry of Health is yet to give green light after the percentage of COVID-19 patients tripled, setting alarm bells ringing in a move that could trigger possible return to lockdown. The COVID-19 positivity rate has risen to 12%, up from 4%, a low rate that had informed the partial reopening of schools. The Health Ministry has not approved the plan to allow all learners back to school, and Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe hinted at tightening of containment measures if the current trend is not reversed. Officials at the Ministry of Education now blame their health counterparts for lack of guidance on the fate of other learners, even as head teachers and parent associations cautioned against rushed reopening in the wake of a surge in infections. The blame game has begun.
Schools will reopen. They will. You wait and see.
Okay.
You wait and see.
You ask yourself.
According to George Magoha a couple of weeks ago, the ministry will observe the situation in 1 or 2 weeks, then we will recall other children. We shall recall them when the time is right. This is what he said last week while monitoring the partial reopening of Olympic Primary in Kibra constituency.
So you know he announces on Wednesday for you to reopen on Monday. It's
I
still
think he's
early
going
days.
to announce tomorrow. Go back to school on
Wait.
Monday. Almost strong thing. The guy
You-
doesn't. Yeah.
You wait.
Live and no go agree.
The Kenya Met Department has urged families around the flooded lakes in the Rift Valley to move to safer grounds because the short rains are about to begin. The department is warning that the lake's water levels could rise even further in the coming days. In recent months, water levels at Lake Naivasha, Elementaita, Bogoria, Baringo and Turkana have risen sharply, flooding farms and displacing hundreds. So, it's raining, it's going to pour, it's going to swell. This is what the Met is telling you.
Okay, thanks.
Rains are coming. You see what you're seeing now?
To be worse.
As you guys are saying ati, hey, na wale ndio walipatikana haki, sisi tulikuwa na bahati. Move,
Move now.
move.
So, who should move the citizenry? Should they move themselves? Or should the county governments find ways of ensuring that people understand what's happening so that the movement is planned in advance? So everything that comes with this water rising is actually attended to in advance.
What you will see is some point 3 weeks into the short rains, the ministry is...
We'll announce that it is raining.
Oh, yes.
Just in case you didn't know.
You'll see a delegation of the Interior CS, the Devolution CS, the Information CS going to the Kenya Met headquarters at Dagoretti Corner. And then they will say, we ask people to move. And they'll ask the governors and the county commissioners to coordinate so that people can move. That's what you will see.
As opposed to now.
And at that point, people will be refusing to move. I saw some information yesterday about some certain governor. Let me not mention it because I'm not sure authenticity of that claim. But a certain governor saying, you know what now, because we've been telling people to move and they don't move whenever there's a disaster looming, we will be caning people.
They will be caning people.
When a county commissioner, people don't listen. Let's now use the cane.
Of course, this is in keeping with, of course, with the human rights
Of course.
that the individuals in that county meeting, they have asked for it.
Right up the
So
alley.
let us give it to them.
Amelilia Wembe.
Yes. We know that scientifically has been proven that if you want to improve the hearing capacity of people, you cane them.
Yep.
Then they listen more keenly and they understand things a lot.
People are told move, they don't move.
Not hearing, apply science.
It's something
Cane them.
also, but that also needs to be, they need to find a way of addressing this. Remember, we have talked to various people. Even the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, George Natembeya, when he was telling us in West Pokot, there are people who've been told move. The house is hanging precariously like this. He's been told move. He's like,
we'll be okay.
I'm fine. And that's an MCA. A local leader refusing to move. And you expect people around him to move. So, when Natembeya says, sasa mtu kama yule tutafanya nini? Tunamwambia songa na kataa kusonga. Tutafanya nini?
Move him with the
him.
house?
No, you move him. You move him. Not with the house. That house is going to collapse at some point. There's no question about it.
Get him off.
Yes.
For the
Remember,
sake of his
that
family.
is one part of the country where landslides have actually been fast and again furious.
Yes. Time for a break at 14 minutes to 7, and then we look at more headlines.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
13 to 7.
So, Kikwete now backs Magufuli as Lissu warns against frustrating agents taking a hop, skip, and a jump into Tanzania. Tanzania is headed the right way, says former president, as he roots for the ruling party candidate. President John Pombe Magufuli has received a campaign boost from his predecessor as he pushes to the finish line against his main rival, Tundu Lissu. Former President Jakaya Kikwete on Sunday vouched for his successor's prowess for the next 5 years, telling an audience in Tanzania telling an audience that Tanzania is now less corrupt and more connected with infrastructure. He spoke as Lissu demanded that all party agents be allowed into polling stations after taking oath to avoid contravening the law. Lissu said it would be important for electoral body officials to ensure party agents have been given adequate documentation to allow them monitor results. So Kikwete has given his nod and his boost to Magufuli. They've got a few days left in the campaigning period, or rather officially campaigning season has ended, but still they continue. We saw huge crowds yesterday in Dar es Salaam, huge crowds in other towns around the country, and the campaign season in word is over. Indeed, that's a different story. So it'd be interesting to see next Wednesday's events. But Lissu is shouting about is frustrated with the electoral body. He's frustrated with the general look of things, and he's still on that beat that, look, we're not going to accept anything less than fair. And now with Kikwete,
He wants to be talked to.
it would appear so.
He wants to be talked to.
Not happy.
Okay. Well, why is it news that Kikwete has backed Magufuli?
Why is it news? It's a boost now. Former president was there for some time, comes and said, you know what, actually,
This man
Even
backed
from
Magufuli
where-
5 years ago.
even from
He's a CCM member. It would be news if Kikwete refused
refused to back him.
to back him.
Sure. Just another feather in his cap, no?
Okay. Let's feather his cap.
Second endorsement after 5 years. And
Let's,
still, it could be that, still my resolve is the same, that this is the man.
okay. Ni sawa tu.
I want you to guess who said this
Okay.
in 2019. Make a difference in the life of at least one person and let your actions help move our nation forward. We can unite, this is a second statement, against corruption and impunity that has long ruined us or tolerated them, and let their purveyors divide us and hold us at ransom. Okay? We have no place for politics of hate and division. We will work together to transform Kenya.
Was that the Deputy President, William Ruto?
Which statement? The last one?
The
middle one?
last statement.
That was William Ruto,
Yeah,
correct?
I thought so.
They're by different people, those three.
Yes, 3 different people.
Okay, the first one is the president.
Yes. Second one?
Raila Odinga.
Now, if you read what they said in 2019, 2020, there'll hardly be any difference in what they're saying.
It's the same.
They're saying the same thing. So this begs the question, what do they mean?
And you can even take any of those statements can be attributed to any of those.
Any of
gentlemen.
Any of the 3.
Yeah.
Precisely my point.
So,
When our politicians tell us that they mean to do good by us,
yeah.
and the actions that follow are not commensurate, then what choices do we have in calling them out and asking them to explain what it is they mean? Because if we look at what they're supposed to do, because these words are actually supposed to encourage us to understand what it is that they plan to do. But if this to-do list,
They're exercising statesmanship. They're just checking the box. Look at that statement by the president. It's very clear that that's a presidential address at some point. What did he say again? Make a difference?
in the life of all, at least one person, and let your actions help move our nations forward.
There you go. That's his presidential speech writing.
All right. January 2012, same person. We do not want the politics of tribalism and division. We are all focused on building bridges of unity and friendship.
Okay. That's not in the speech. That
Okay.
is an off-the-cuff statement.
All right. Raila Odinga. Without truth, we cannot have justice. There can be no justice without reconciliation. Where there is no reconciliation, we cannot have peace. And that is why we need peace for development.
That is a well-written speech.
Okay.
When was that?
This was January 20th, 2019. July 2nd, 2020. Deputy President Dr. William Ruto. If we unite, we will overcome our challenges and achieve equality in our country.
Same thing.
Same speechwriter.
Absolutely. Same thing.
Same speechwriter. Basically, what they're doing is they're doing what, a president is supposed to wear. A president cannot wear a grey suit. Those things. They are just meeting the straitjacket definition of national leader.
Yes,
And
they
then
are.
what you now do is you do something completely different.
And
On
then
the records show that I have always espoused nationalism, unity of a country, and building a nation together. That's what I always stood for. Look at any of the statements attributed to me. How can you then accuse me of going against those? What I say is what I speak. What I speak is what I mean. And that's who I am.
yes, if the yardstick we're using is only the words that are uttered, then spot on. He's 100% right. Unfortunately, if you are a leader, we expect the words to be followed by some action. And even if there is some action, but there is a perspective or there's a view that those actions are insufficient, we will take the view that you have done nothing.
Zero.
Yes. We will take that view that this person actually has done nothing, even though the reality may be completely different, and that there are certain things you can say you have done, and there'll be evidence to prove that they have been done. But our statement will be, you have done nothing.
Yeah. What have you been doing?
Yes.
So, the Law Society of Kenya was primed to be a brave new bar, according to the presidential candidate then, Mr. Nelson Harvey, who's now the president. Now, there has been drama between the president and his council and the chief executive officer of the Law Society of Kenya. Drama erupted yesterday at the LSK after a divided council left the tenure of the society's chief executive, Mercy Wambua, in limbo. The majority of council members said they had cleared the embattled CEO so she could stay in office, but President Nelson Harvey sent out a statement to the contrary, saying the council had sent Wambua home and a new office holder should replace her with immediate effect. Armed with a 54-page judgment indicting Wambua for gross misconduct, Harvey directed her to leave office upon being paid 3 months of her salary in lieu of notice, while permitting the 9 council members who had a contrary opinion, to pass their verdict. This morning, the decision to terminate the contract of service for Mercy Wambua was given to her. The recruitment of the secretary shall commence effective immediately. However, those supporting Wambua urged her to resume her job, dismissing claims that they had ratified a decision to send her home. The council resolved that the CEO, who was on suspension for the period of between September 15th and October 19th, return to work and resume her duties. We wish to confirm that the CEO has resumed her duties with immediate effect.
Well, social media is actually awash with the documentations that points to one thing, that their president seems to be stepping outside the boundaries or out the limitations of the powers he has. And that he is also trying to actually veto what the committee that is the council that is actually charged with the functions of actually issuing the way forward in such matters. Now, the other thing that seems to be coming up is one asks, if you look at the history of this particular president of the LSK, we've had other presidents of the LSK who have come out as being reformist, because I think that's the word that's used in such circumstances. Not activist, reformist. But with the political climate that we have, the question that one would ask is, okay, clearly he wants to present himself as a straight shooter.
Yep.
Who is providing the ammunition?
There you go.
Who is supporting this particular war? It's the way we think, it's the way we ask our questions.
Yeah.
Because at some level, when you look at the issue of going to parliament to sit in and to sit people out, and you end up drinking tea in parliament, okay? Every other issue that has come up in the country, okay? The matters that have come up, it is clear that there's a certain image that the president wants to portray.
Yep.
But then let's ask the question, what exactly has he done in keeping with what his job requirements are?
There you go. I mean, look beyond all the billows of smoke and all of this drama and whatever. Underneath it all, what has actually been achieved since that time?
Yes.
Talking about a brave new bar and all that lawyers, legal profession and legal minds in the country then would be able to achieve or pursue when it came to, proper conduct and things like that. How far has that gone? We've seen a lot of smoke going up in the air. And I think that's the question.
In fact, you get the impression that one of the things that the president of the LSK has done, he has actually positioned the LSK as an opposition party.
Yep. In the absence of an opposition party, the LSK takes up that position. In the absence of a very robust and active and united civil society, the LSK is taking up leadership. Well, among the things that, there can be very many arguments about, what is he doing, whose brief is he holding, but he's elevated the LSK to that other position. Could be that very extreme position that very many lawyers may not be comfortable with, but he's bringing back that conversation.
I agree with you completely, because one of the things that he has actually done is precisely that. You get the impression that most lawyers would not want all this publicity with all this. Yes, but he's loud enough to the point where he has to be heard.
He has to be heard.
Yes.
This is the thing.
Now, if some of these actions could actually be turned around to prove that he's actually fighting for the so-called common man, then indeed one could argue that he is a good president. But I think they elected him to look after the interest of the LSK first.
This is the thing.
And then the interest of the rest of the country.
Primarily.
So the question is he looking after the interest of his members? And do all his members agree with the way in which he is actually managing this particular organization?
Like you said yesterday, people will always disagree.
Yep.
It's not the number of people who disagree. Is it a majority that agree with him or a majority that disagrees with him? If a majority agrees with him, then he's going to have a good time. If a majority disagrees with him, he'll be impeached or whatever happens to a president of the Law Society.
There's that little detail, and I'm here. The discussion has actually come into an impeachment discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, they've gone to the point where they are
Man
members.
has not even finished a year, man. Can just cut him some
Well,
slack.
Give him
But does it not enrich the discussion?
True, it does. It does. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, coming to the top of the hour. Wherever you are tuned in this morning, happy Mashujaa Day. This is going to be an interesting day because we will be looking at identifying our own Shujaas, modern day heroes of the Republic. That's the conversation that we'll be having going forward. But also, we have a big story to look at 7 o'clock. Keep it right here. www.spicefm.co.ke, SpiceFM.ke, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
So it's a good day to be on the streets of Nairobi with your vehicle or through public transport because there's not much traffic this morning. It's looking pretty good, guys, in whatever way you want to look at it. Thika Road, absolutely clear all the way in and out of the CBD. Mombasa Road, the same, even with the holdups around the construction, which continues today, interestingly enough. It's not causing any drama today. Looking very, very good from Gong Road, Langata Road, and further down Mombasa Road. Eastern and Southern Bypass is also looking pretty good. I don't think we're going to see much in terms of problems there. In case you do get stuck somewhere, let us know, won't you? Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter, or text us on 40127. We'll see much drama today, but just in case, let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way.
All right, it's 2.5 minutes after 7. Good morning and happy Mashujaa Day this very beautiful Tuesday morning, the 20th day of October 2020. This and every morning, we are live on KTN Home now for the next 2 hours. We are also live online on Spice FM, KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and spicefm.co.ke. And we are live in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Njeri, and Malindi on your radios. C.T. Muga, as we begin this new hour, remind us today's proverb.
Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Yes.
Now, we are assuming that these are the people who are close to the king.
We're assuming that these are the people the king listens to.
Because it could be wise people who are just looking at the king and wondering,
What's going on here?
Advisors, by their very nature, are supposed to be wise, meaning at least knowledgeable. They're supposed to be balanced. But the reality is that they're not always balanced. They are probably people who tickle the leader's fancy.
yep.
Yes. They went to school together, they are relatives, they drink alcohol together, they drink porridge together.
Business partners.
Yes, they eat maize together.
Maize cob.
Yes, I knew that one wasn't going to fly. So that's why I rectified it immediately.
Wow.
That one is a big one. So there's a new bill in the National Assembly, isn't there?
There is. So Muranga's county women representative, Sabina Shege, is hoping to give the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service the much required autonomy, or shall we say blood, it needs to come back into being. And there's a new bill that she has put forward. And one of the things about this bill says clearly that anyone who engages in illegal trade of blood faces up to 10 years in jail, 20 million shillings fine or both, if the proposed Kenya National Blood Transfusion Bill becomes law. Now, very many things are coming out as have been proposed in this bill. It would be great if it had said that one of the things is that at any one time, the body which has been tasked with the responsibility to make sure that there's an adequate supply of blood much needed for the citizens of Kenya then should be available, regardless. Now, there are certain things that have come into place. Why has this new law been brought or tabled? It's meant to curtail the illegal dealings in blood and organ transplants. We know that this was alleged to have happened a few months ago, many months ago, when we saw the issues having to do with blood, when there was not enough in the country, and there were tales of this blood then being sold in Somalia. The DCI is investigating officers at the KNBTS alleged to be part of a cartel sending blood donated by Kenyans illegally Reports indicate that the blood is sold locally and smuggled to Somalia and other African countries. When the scandal was exposed earlier in the year, the health CS told Kenyans to expect arrests soon. However, no one has been apprehended so far, and Kenyans continue to face severe blood shortages. It doesn't get covered as much, but it comes up and pops up every now and then that Kenyans still go into medical institutions, hospitals, clinics, whatever, wherever they need this blood and are not able to get it. The blood transfusion center for the country still is dogged by problems, still being rocked by scandal, still being rocked by tales of not having enough after having gone through all this hullabaloo about the donor funding coming to an end, etc., etc., etc. Now, this bill is coming forward to try and curb this. Whereas it talks about 10 years and fines and all of these things for blood thieves, I would have hoped that there would be a bill that would then have been all-encompassing, whereby it was reiterating the importance of making blood available for Kenyans. It's not happening now. It shouldn't be something that comes about just because of donor funding. It's something that should come about as an inherent right of Kenyans in the country. So whereas this bill makes sense for the criminals, the bigger picture here is that the country still has no adequate supply of blood. It does not. You have an operation or a procedure that requires blood. It's like you're coming to a party with your own bottle. You have to bring your own blood, unfortunately.
Actually, not just bottle, with your own food.
This is what we're looking at now.
Maybe the story is the one that is highlighting the issue that the journalist and the editor felt that this would resonate with what has been in the news lately. What has been in the news lately about blood, apart from the shortage, then there was a whole scandal of whether our blood is going through Somalia and ending up elsewhere. And therefore, when you look at now, is there a bill that is addressing that? Probably, sitting back as a journalist, you pick, this would be a story then that would resonate. But looking at the entire bill, it establishes a number of things. For example, it establishes the blood transfusion service. And this time, it even talks about the composition of the board. And I was just skimming through it, and I'm seeing there are some provisions that, maybe may end up having some great benefit. Like in the composition of the board, it says that this board shall have, let me get there. Members of this board, the blood transfusion service. The board shall comprise a non-executive chairperson, of course, the PS in the Ministry of Health, and then there'll be a representative of the private sector nominated by the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, a representative of the private-based transfusing facilities. That means now the other private transfusion facilities are sitting in the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service, a representative of the faith-based transfusing facilities, a representative of the Council of Governors, a representative of the medical training institutions with knowledge and experience in hematology, a representative of universities with knowledge and experience in hematology, and a representative of the civil society or NGO working in the area of blood. Now, looking at that board, then you're saying that the sectors of the society are then represented in the board. There's a council of governors looking at the counties, there's the NGOs, there's faith-based institutions, there's a private sector alliance, there's a private-based institutions that deal with blood. If you look at it on paper, it sounds, okay, this is going to be a representative body, and then it will be looking at representing the various interests of the country in the board. Then now maybe the functions or the expectations of now this blood transfusion service, especially when now you bring in the county governments and you say, so what is it that you shall do to promote, first of all, blood transfusion, secondly, to promote better safekeeping of this blood, and to promote better coordination in terms of blood management?
I think, for me, as I look at all of this, and I think it's all great, policy is fantastic. However, if we look at the problems that had dogged the service previously, it was an over-dependence on donors funding. That's what it was. They didn't know a life outside of money that would come in to buffer the country's blood service outside of donor funding. They didn't know that. And even when they were given this warning from the US government and PEPFAR that this money is going to come to an end, right? We are going to give you time. We're going to loosen the reins a little bit, but then you must have policies in place to make sure that you will be able to do that. Warning adequate was given, right? It never happened. So it would be interesting to know, I think important, what then specifically would be done to remove this overdependence on donor funding, which has always been the bane of its existence. That is what they know. So even if you take different clothes and you put it on the same body, you still have the same problems. Bring a new board. Bring whatever you want to bring. But if the general mindset is that the funding is going to come from somewhere else, you're not going to have a change.
But you see, the law will not fix that.
So
Unless you want to say that you want to put it in law that says that this body shall not be shall not receive any money that does not come from the national exchequer.
If the law doesn't fix that, then this bill would not make a difference.
Listen to the funds. The funds of the service shall consist of monies appropriated by the National Assembly, fees, monies or assets or as may accrue or vest in the service in the course of exercise of its powers, gifts, grants and donations as may accrue to the service, monies as may be payable to the service because of what they're doing, or monies from any other lawful source provided, donated or lent to the service. So let's you say now, we remove all those others, gifts, grants, donations, if we limit that to only 5% of its budget. Something like that.
You see where the dependence
so that you say then that
the dependence
that
is already being
appropriated
attributed to whoever is going to give a helping
But you know,
hand.
monies appropriated to the National Assembly shall consist 95%. If you say something like that, then
You know, PEPFAR was launched in 2003. Prior to that, the blood donation services in this country existed.
It did.
And not only did it exist, they had programs, they had plans, they had policies, they had ways of ensuring that there was sufficient blood for those who might need it.
And they had, before you go on, they had a people who were excited about donating at the same time.
Yes, they were. And they even had policies that accrued benefits to those who donated blood. Like if you're a blood donor, should your relative require blood, all the other requirements that were put across to people whose relatives had not donated blood were not. In short, they would be able to receive
some
blood without
preferential treatment in some way.
plenty of preferential treatment. Okay, they even gave you a card to carry around
Yep.
to show that I remember it was a blue card,
Yep.
show that you're a blood donor. And people who donated blood did so proudly. Then came HIV. And even when HIV was with us, people still donated blood. They would test your blood. They would never tell you. If all you want to do was donate blood, they would never tell you unless you asked them to tell you, okay, whether your blood tested positive or not. But the truth is, remember, even before HIV, even when you donated blood, that blood had to be tested. Because it isn't, HIV was not the only disease in existence. There were other diseases that could be traced within the blood that was donated. Now, the question I would ask is, at what point did this system that existed just break down? And what you're right about is that when PEPFAR came in, everything that people had done prior to that was put aside.
Yep.
It now became the function of the donor to support this particular function.
Yep.
And if you look at other diseases or the functions of other diseases in the country that were donor supported, you'll find the same mindset has prevailed. Now, the question I want to ask is, so the donation of blood, do they want it to be standalone in that bill, or is it going to be under the Ministry of Health?
No, the donation of blood is under this, the National Blood Transfusion Service.
Yes.
Of course, there's some bit of it vests under the Ministry of Health, and that's why the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health is a board member. That's why also the Principal Secretary is the one that shall then make the formal appointment of all the board members. That's why, the Cabinet Secretary shall make the appointments. It's under the Ministry of Health.
Actually, I'm going somewhere with what I asked. We have 47 counties.
Yes.
Should the push not be for each county to be self-reliant?
Sure.
Does that bill cover that?
About self-reliance, you'd think, Hey, self-reliance how? You want a national blood transfusion service that then
Has branches
yes, has branches across the country.
that work.
So role of county governments. Every county government shall carry out such as signed duties as licensed by the board, shall ensure an enabling environment for collaboration with the service. In collaboration with the service, carry out inspection on health facilities on blood transfusion and safety, comply with the provisions of this piece of legislation on blood transfusion, and then the service itself shall advise the county government on blood safety issues, shall assign and where necessary provide licenses for assignable duties, shall provide training to the county government staff in blood transfusion safety, shall provide equipment for blood collection, testing and storage, and monitor compliance with policies and standards.
Shall supply. That's what I was waiting for. Equipment. Okay.
Shall supply, provide equipment for blood collecting, testing and storage.
Okay. So counties have been taken care of.
Yep. So you have a provision here then that looks at how do they work. You know, on paper, this thing will look very good. The taste of this pudding will come at that point when you're talking about the implementation of it. Because if you think about even just the management, one of the things that we keep talking about is, so PEPFAR warned the government and said, you know, we'll now start reducing our support to the blood
They
transfusion
give a
service
timeline.
They did.
within a certain time. The management and their seniors at the Ministry of Health, whatever decisions were made, were not basically looking at how to ensure that there is continuation of service. And so we got to a point where there was serious problem with blood transfusion services in the country. If we have a board that then has other members, private sector has other blood transfusion players in the board, they will be sitting there and thinking, okay, so we are not going to have money to support this. What are we going to do? You can now expect that there's going to be a conversation at the board level on what do we do now that we don't have. And some of these people that we're talking about are people who are in faith-based hospitals who run blood transfusion services, people in the private hospitals who run blood transfusion services, people in NGOs who work in blood transfusion services. So you have people who have interest but are not in government, so they'll be asking questions and demanding, we need to do something. We need to lobby for better funding.
Sure. I mean, the funding thing is a big issue. And even here, the Commission did take submissions that one of the biggest problems dogging the service is the lack of financial support from the government. And without this, it's then not possible for them to go about providing these services as they should. That's clear, and it's a problem. It's always been. That's why you had to have the step in from other donor agencies, right? Now, going further, they said, look, it's a dilapidated state, what we're looking at now. You're not able to test. You don't have reagents. You don't have supply. You're not even able to convince Kenyans to come out and donate anymore. You can't do that. So it's like they're starting from scratch. And if one of the ways in which they hope to raise this funding is by donations and loans and things like that, it's very difficult to set up something like this coming from the premise where your fundamental pillar of support doesn't exist. And for something so important, it makes sense then that you change it doesn't make sense rather that you change the body but you're not changing the makeup. I mean, it doesn't help. It doesn't really.
What would you like to see?
I mean, I would like, because if what has been the bane of the existence of this entire service is that they have not had any when they were running on their own, before any kind of support came in, at least you would see, this is pre-2003, you would see that at some point you had Kenyans who were very excited and very willing to even support and put that, even donate. And then you had a bank in the country that was actually running to some degree. The donor funding came in to boost this. Along the line, it fell apart. Something fell apart, and then the over reliance, over dependence on this donor funding, then made them become weak in their approach. Our exit donor funding, it was clear we're not going to be able to do this on their own, and you have a government then who is not able to support this.
Doesn't that point to institutional management?
Absolutely, it does.
And that's why you then need to fix that. Fix the institutional management, fix how this body is running, and then wherever the funds will come from, they will be able to manage. Because you're talking about from 2003 up to 2020, what has the blood transfusion service been doing? Has the blood transfusion service expanded its operations? So we now have what are those terminologies? The centers and there are 7 across the country and there are 47.
Yeah, you have 6 major centers around
Yes.
the country, right? And then you have so you have now you have the satellites
Yes.
in different parts of in different counties.
Can we say that now those 7 were expanded and their capacity expanded during this 17-year period with the donor funding?
Yes.
Can we say then that
It's the donor funding that
the
got,
donor funding that
got
allowed
it.
this
that
expansion
got it
to
to that
take
level?
place. Yeah.
Was that the best that they could do in those 13 years and expand to 7? Could they have gone further? And then after that, have they been able to manage it well so that we can say that after they withdrew all of the donor funds, that we've been able to run this? Remember, we were even talking about some equipment being bought, and those equipment don't have reagents. I mean, don't have reagents that work with
Actually,
this
what
particular
When the
happened
donor
for
funding was
testing
in
the blood.
existence, those reagents were available.
Management.
Right. When the donor funding was there, it was available. When the donor funding was there, unfortunately, what it does is that you don't have to think about alternatives because everything that you need is provided for. And that's what we are saying. To have a service like this that is over-reliant on something like that is the problem.
You see, the mess that was actually created, this is no pun intended here, was that when there was a hue and cry about matters of blood, the ministry then, at least we read in the papers, that they had sought to buy equipment. Now, little detail here. People have to be trained to use that equipment with the reagents. So they didn't buy the sort of equipment that people had been trained to use. No. They went and bought equipment that nobody knew about, people had not been trained in. And so even if you brought the reagents, essentially they were defunct even before.
No one would know how to use it.
Yes. They didn't know how to use it. It was completely new. All this equipment you hear, people have to be trained to use it. It's not that they're not effective. But you ask, why didn't you bring what people already knew how to use? Because when you bring these new ones, you then have to you're going to spend more money in training people. There's an entire unnecessary cost attached to that whole process again. So, whether they were eventually used, people were eventually trained. Remember, if this is a department within the Ministry of Health or a unit, then it means that when the Ministry of Health budgets, they should also budget for it. If they budget for all these things, so the issue of there not being any money, that one does not arise.
Absolutely. And it doesn't come as an afterthought or a breath that you take later, but it should be that when all these things are being put down, then you know that the blood service is also getting a part of this. It should be that way from the beginning, not as an afterthought. What did we hear? The same Sabina Shega who told us last year that, well, you know what? We actually didn't realize that their budget line was not in this year's budget. So unfortunately, they're going to have to wait. So that somebody didn't do their job. Seriously, didn't do your job when you're saying that money is needed to run a service. You know that the funding has ended. You know that this is a requirement, and then it's just not put in. It's not a priority.
No, actually, you are absolutely right in this sense. The priority isn't the service. The priority is how much money are we getting into this ministry? And then you are forced to think and suppose that the money, the thoughts about the money have nothing to do with the provision of service. No, it has to do with just the money and what use we individually and personally would put this money to.
And the things that the service then is actually supposed to fulfill, again, you leave Kenyans to the whims and say, it's okay. They'll figure it out. They have relatives. They will, somebody somehow will make their way through.
Even as we're talking about this, it was occurring to me that when you talk about the rot, and we point at the politicians, we are being unfair. Unfair in this regard, this one regard. Almost every ministry in this country, almost every, meaning I don't know, there might be one, that's why the almost comes in. The focus on the people who are there at the very best, is to do a minimum of what is required. A minimum. Ensure the money gets spent, but the purpose for which it was intended is never really actually fulfilled. In some cases, when you can't figure out how to ensure that this money is actually expended, the money is returned.
Yep.
Meaning it isn't used. Now, it's something we see over and over and over and over again. I am certain that even when you talk about the budgets for this, if we look closely, you'll find that the ministry indeed, remember, the donors were supporting. It wasn't their baby, they were supporting, meaning you already have a function, but we are supporting it so that it can be expanded. And the understanding was actually very clear because HIV was all over the country, and the government's capacity at that time didn't fit that bill. So let's support it. But it's not as though the government didn't have money. Where did the government money go to?
Where did it go?
No, the government money remained at the same level, same percentage. I mean, if we've been supporting this organization with $1 billion shillings, and the needs continue rising to 3 billion, 5 billion, 7 billion, the government is still doing the 1 billion, and the donors are now doing the extra.
4, the 5, the whatever.
Yes. So you remove that 5 extra, you go back to 1 billion, which is 10 years ago. Only could support the operations of 10 years ago. This is an interesting conversation. We'll also be seeking to understand what other aspects of this bill, and then how do we sort out the issue of over-reliance on donor funding, which to me, I believe that's an issue of policy at the national level. This is from the president and cabinet.
But even as we understand it, it's going to be an interesting discussion because now we've been told we are actually in a recession.
Indeed. 26 minutes after 7, time for us to take a break right here on Spice FM on KTN Home and Online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatliff and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatliff and True Black and the Standard Group.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, so still looking at overcast situations in Nairobi, 16 degrees. We'll see a high of 23 today and a chance of those showers coming back early on this morning. Nakuru is mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 13, and a chance of thunderstorms later. In Njeri this morning, it's already experiencing light rain showers at 16 degrees, and it's going to graduate to thunderstorms later, and it'll be a wet day throughout Njeri today. Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 14 degrees, highs of 21 and lows of 12, and a chance of rains later as well. It's mostly sunny in Mombasa at the moment at 26. That won't last for long. Highs of 29 and lows of 24 with rains expected later. Mostly cloudy in Malindi at 27, and also looking at an afternoon of rain with highs of 29 and lows of 25. Looks like a wet afternoon in Kisumu as well. 21 degrees and mostly cloudy at the moment. Highs of 26 and lows of 19. Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 17. Highs of 23 and lows of 16 with showers expected later. It's cloudy in Kampala at 19, highs of 24 and lows of 18, also looking at showers later. Partly cloudy conditions in Tanzania at 24, in Dar es Salaam specifically, 31 the high and lows of 22, and it'll be partly cloudy through the day. It's mostly sunny and a warm day in Joburg at 17, highs of 31 and lows of 16. And finally for now, in Lagos, it's 31 degrees and partly cloudy. That'll be the high for the day, coming down to lows of 24. traffic? No, there's not much today. Mombasa Road is actually looking pretty good. The works continue on the expressway, but that doesn't stop traffic from moving very well. This morning, all the way from Mombasa Road through to Westlands, it's looking pretty good. And coming off of Thika Road in and outbound to the CBD looks great. As does Westlands, Ngong Road, Langata Road. I don't think we're going to have much problems today. If we do let us know. Spice FM KE or 40127 if you'd like to text us. Let's see how we keep it moving this morning.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Happy
Spice
Mashujaa Day,
FM.
wherever you are this Tuesday morning, wherever you are tuned in, we thank you for tuning in on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online, www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. On this brilliant Mashujaa Day, we want to look at what exactly does it mean to be a Shujaa. What is it that we mean when we say we are celebrating our heroes of the Republic? Who are these heroes? For a very long time, this particular day, when it was Kenyatta Day, a lot of focus used to be on the freedom fighters, the people who fought for independence, the Mau Mau struggle, those who were jailed with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta in Kapenguria, those who participated in the formation of the first government, and those were the heroes that, would be forming the stories. Should that still be the case? Should we stop looking at those? Should we continue looking at those and then expand our scope?
It evolved a little bit. I say a little because with the so-called second liberation, other fighters of freedom again emerged, and they were fighting not now for independence, but for a new dispensation. And they also began to form that particular, should we say, group. They joined that group of people who we refer to as Mashujaa. But in this day and age, once what they had fought for was achieved in terms of multipartyism came into being, we even got a new constitution. So, did we stop having Mashujaa in the country? Well, the answer is no, we didn't.
We still have Mashujaas on a daily basis.
We do. People who fight to bring about change that actually resonates with the majority of the people. Change which brings about an improvement of just livelihood, life, the environment in which people live in. People who bring about joy. People who ensure that the country moves forward in terms of development, in terms of every aspect of life. These are people who cannot be taken for granted because they do things that other people haven't done. And so, in a sense, these people are Mashujaa.
The Mashujaa.
Yes.
That's why the term unsung heroes comes in.
Yes, it does.
And we shouldn't be calling them unsung heroes. We should basically just be praising them on a daily basis.
Yes, we should be singing them on a daily basis. Yes.
Let's bring in somebody to help us talk about this conversation. And this is Mtumishi Njeri Thorne. He is a former member of parliament. He is among the people who fought for the second liberation, like we talk about. We spoke to him on the day of the commemoration of the Sabasaba demonstrations. He's among those that organized that very first Sabasaba rally in 1990. Mtumishi, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you at the Spice?
We are very well, thank you.
We're well, thank you.
Very good. I have heard what you have said.
Happy Mashujaa Day.
Happy Mashujaa Day, man. I'm not sure whether to say happy or sad Mashujaa Day, but well, happy Mashujaa Day. Well,
Why
we
would
are
it be
alive.
sad?
Sad because, one, we are celebrating something very many Kenyans do not understand. Mashujaa. Mashujaa simply means patriots who sacrifice deeply for others. And according to me, citizens that are full of compassion are also Mashujaas because you meet and encounter them in various stages and places and events where some of them have sacrificed their lives to save others. For example, a character that jumps into a latrine pit to save a fallen child is not just a hero. that one is a savior. And you see, they are not recognized as all. So when you talk about unsung heroes, you are talking of such men and women. Those that are celebrities in Nyayo Stadium, throwing of discus and javelins, people jumping from cliffs so that they can earn money, cannot be called heroes. Those are celebrities. But patriots who sacrifice for others, citizens who are full of compassion and go saving others, are our heroes and should be recognized so that they can give model to the young people.
How about, just like you've said, so yes, let's recognize those that are, giving up their comforts for the benefit of others, but even those that bring pride to the country. They bring pride to the nation, and basically at some point in their victory, they unite the country and they create nationhood. Why are you saying that those are not heroes, even if they are earning money?
I am not saying they are not great people. Those are great men like poets, musicians, runners, etc. Those are great people because they bring the name, they arise the nation and communities, but they also earn the resources and other things. Their names are celebrated across the world. They are not our heroes. They are our examples, our celebrities, and characters who need to be emulated in their own talents and avenues, whatever it is that they do. But when you tell him, go and do it, and this time it's going to be 50 pounds, not 1,000, some of them relax and go back to their homes. Because there is nothing else to pick for them. And they will tell you, I'm going to London Marathon, but not the Melbourne Marathon. Yeah, because there is more money in London and less money in Melbourne.
But I'll go to the Olympics.
Yeah, they will go to the Olympics
and
because that is where the stars shine. And they want to outshine each other. Not to make Kenya first, to outshine the other athlete. In so doing, they earn the name for the nation.
They do, and they're well known. But something that has happened in the recent past, this Black Lives Matter movement, we've had people who fall in the category that we've been discussing, coming out and speaking out, sticking out their necks and speaking out. Do they just remain as celebrities, or do they enter the realms of heroes?
Now, when you talk about black people, Black Lives Matter, that is something very interesting. Because we are not talking about them being celebrities. They are fighting for liberation. They are fighting so that they are free. They are fighting so that they are not marginalized. And they are fighting to be equalized with other communities in Americas, or if you like, in the rest of the world. And they are saying the African is just as great as you people are. By the way, it is possible that in very many spheres we are greater than you, so you must recognize us. So you are actually fighting for your own space in life and in the world communities.
True.
Those are not just like athletes. Those are people fighting for their liberation. And in the end, you are going to have a lot of heroes created out of them.
No, I was referring to the very same people you mentioned, the athletes, the musicians, who have come out to lend their voices to this particular movement or struggle. You see, because they're already known.
Using their celebrity status.
Precisely.
Yeah. And you know, as you talk about the artists, because musicians are also artists. You see, every time you talk about an artist depicting a certain development in society, he is actually communicating. He is educating. He is entertaining, just like you do in the media, to weaken the interests of the people and the concerns of society. And according to me, they are as equal as the politicians are, because they are talking about their positions to make sure that the message is given to the right people. That for me is communication. You are not creating heroism out of it. You are informing your publics about what should be done and what is being communicated through your art and music.
So you say that they are also, in this context, Mashujaa.
I'm not saying that those artists are Mashujaa. I'm saying those artists and musicians are educators, teachers.
All right. Would Wangari Maathai qualify as a Shujaa?
Yes. I'll tell you why. Because Wangari Maathai sacrificed her time and dropped herself from a certain class to be able to be with others, the women and little fellows of the slums, so that they can fight for what is theirs, the environment. Remember that the poor people are the ones that actually create their own poverties, so that when you talk about the poor people burning charcoal, they are doing it for their livelihood, but they are destroying their future. Wangari Maathai is saying, for God's sake, please spare this tree. It is going to give you life and generations to come. So come, let us campaign together. We have got prisoners in committee, and we want to release them. And Moi is not going to. Mothers, come, let us mobilize ourselves to make sure that we are heard by the dictator, so that our children can be released. That is sacrifice, space, time, and status. And she did that.
Jeru, I think that as everybody remembers heroes previously, that you want to think about those who fought for some kind of freedom. And I hear you saying that even today, present continuous, that there are heroes that exist in our time. Why do you think that they don't receive the same celebratory status as those who came before them?
Yeah, it is because of this one thing, that Kenyans have forgotten that we have got the home guard culture. And the home guard culture is that the British gave the home guard the authority and the tools of power, so that those that sacrifice and are heroes, freedom fighters and democratic fighters, whatever you call them, the Wazalendos, do not get closer to power, so that they do not disrupt the comforts of the home guard. And therefore, if you look at those who have occupied the State House and those who have occupied the whole government machinery, you will appreciate one thing. They are either the sons of those people you are talking about of 1960, 63, 62, whatever it is, or their associates who went with them to school, they were with them in offices and what have you, and so forth. So they are still guarding the space, so that those of us that are remnants of fathers that were in prisons and forest fighters do not ever get close. So although most of them, those that we are talking about, are the ones that sacrifice for multipartism, for the freedom war, and for everything else that has happened in this country to claim space on liberation and democracy, then we cannot get close to that place because it's guarded, well guarded.
How do we liberate ourselves from that?
Oh, that is where we begin, sir. Where and how do we liberate ourselves? Very good. People must get out from ignorance. And ignorance is not lack of going to school. Professors can be ignorant if they don't think about why they suffer. Professors can be ignorant because they don't think about why history is not taught in Kenyan universities. Professors can be ignorant when political science is not a subject in its purity in Kenyan universities. We must ask ourselves why. It is because the system wants to deny our children knowledge, the right knowledge, so that they don't discover from whence they have come. And it is that that makes us backward and primitive. And I'm using this word again, knowing I talked to you on Sabasaba, and I used the same words, primitive and backward. And we are backward because we are not exposed to the right education.
We see other countries who celebrates what you, from what you're saying now, who would be the modern day hero, who would be the everyday hero. And we see them celebrate these people on a regular basis. And what would you see as a fundamental difference, as in why here in Kenya and even other countries on the continent don't celebrate what you would call present day, modern day heroes who sacrifice for the betterment of somebody else's life? Why? What's the difference between what's the difference here?
The difference between us in this country and others is that the whole of the world recognize that without the foundation laid by a few people that sacrificed for their freedoms, and if you may call the gates of modernity in their own societies, then this society would not be as it is. Mm-hmm. But for what we are celebrating today, for example, is that we have known we are supposed to celebrate our heroes, but we do not recognize them. We want to resemble the whole world celebrating heroes, but we do not recognize any one of ours. The difference is there, that in those societies, they recognize them. You look at their children, they are very well catered for. They are educated by the state. They are given implements and tools to advance themselves, including resources of material, so that they can actualize and relieve their fathers and mothers' determinations. That is why Martin Luther Jr., King Jr., you see their family is very, very well catered for in the U.S. Mm-hmm. But look at Mukami Kimathi, you see misery, you know, and the people want to always visit her, you know, women of value going to Kinangom to visit Mukami, and they know that her children and children's children are living in mystery. You know, we have not recognized our people, we have not recognized our heroes, and we live in shame because of that. Remember that the societies that do not respect their heroes, maintain and support them, are actually cursed.
You started with the example of somebody who jumps into a pit latrine to go and rescue a child who has fallen in a pit latrine, and saying that is a hero.
Yes.
So we have very many of such examples in the society. How do we identify heroes, and should we have various cadres of a hero? So this person...
I have seen that the government has appointed a committee or a commission that is supposed to look at who Mashujaa are, led by Adan Wachu, the Secretary General SUPKEM.
Yep. Former.
And... former or current, I'm not sure now. You know, I am a Catholic, so I'm not very close to the leaderships of others. Mm-hmm. But I know Adan Wachu, my friend, very close friend, was the Secretary General SUPKEM. Mm-hmm. And what I think is this: every community in society appreciates their heroes. They know them. You go to Mathare Valley, and they will tell you that one of their greatest sons and daughters is so and so and so because they did A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Those communities should be able to come up with those recommendations, those names. Who are they? What did they do? When did they do it? For whom did they do it? And you are going to come up with a beautiful list from the whole nation about so many of our people that have done great things and the Kenyans have not known. Those are the people to be celebrated in those communities and counties. And those are the people that we should be able to give the list, the national list, respect every time that we are going to occasions like the one we have today. And it will make more meaning when the president says, this is the list that has come from across the country of men and women and youth that have done great things. And because your community is represented by XY people, then you actually feel part of that thing. But when you are told that the person who was appointed minister is the current hero, and you know alikuwa sijui wanasomea stradhi monakina fulani, and you know that those fellows whose children ndio wanapelekwa Nyayo Stadium kuswim, and yours cannot go there and it is a public utility, then you actually feel nuissated and you don't care about what national days are. That is my feeling.
So with the way the WASHU team now is going to look at how to identify and recognize heroes from the society, the question still comes: how do we identify the heroes? If, for example, we're looking in this village and, people can come up and say, so-and-so, Mama so-and-so is always very active whenever there's an issue in the community. She's among the first to mobilize people to come to the help, to aid someone. That is a hero. Someone else will say, so-and-so is always very active in church. That is a hero. Or this other person is the one who participated in the rescue of a child who had fallen into a pit latrine. Hero. Should there be different cadres and levels of hero?
Yes, of course. Of course, we cannot call everybody hero. We cannot say that the person that goes to hunt for snakes is a hero, yet he is looking for skins. We know snakes are very dangerous, about our children and so forth. But if somebody says, isipokuwa ni mimi, mungekuwa na hizi nyoka kila pahali, that's all right. At some point you may think that he's doing great things, but what is his motivation? Motivation yake ni kupata ile skin aende yakauze, or motivation yake ni kutoa the fangs ndio ile poison isiwe kwa nyoka isiume mtu, or what is the motivation? That is what is going to qualify the person that has dedicated himself to serve the people, and the characters whose business is actually to develop their own. And it can be understood, that it is understood by the people. Our people are quite intelligent, extremely so. When you tell them we are looking for people that have sacrificed, people who have compassion for our own communities and people, they understand. They know so-and-so does this because of A, B, and C interest, and the other one is opposite of him. Those names are going to come out very purely. In fact, let me tell you, when we go to the communities and we are talking to them about the best people to be employed by government because of A, B, and C, they start saying this: tafadhali chukueni mtoto wa fulani ambaye alifunjika miguu yake about 15 years ago, because this child is the one that is going to assist them survive. And you can understand. While they say, mtoto wa fulani ule anapelekwa na masinde shule, tafadhali yangoje kidogo sababu wale hawana shida. You can understand the thinking of a community, and they want the best for themselves and this nation. But because we ignore them, then they give us also blind eye.
Someone who's asking, if you look at community level, then you may get to a community which is pushing a certain agenda, or whose very vocal leaders are pushing a certain agenda that is not really aligned to the national agenda. For instance, you go to a certain village and you find there are very many adherents of the former Mombasa Republican, what are they called, the MRC.
Yes.
And they're pushing for, secession of the coast and saying, Pwani si Kenya. If those people identified the leadership of MRC, which is a proscribed organization, and they said, these are our heroes, how do we reconcile that with the national agenda and the ethos of our heroes?
Very good. You see, when you have a group trying to develop a secessionist thinking, that the Mombasa Republican whatever
Council
wants to secede from Kenya, to say Mombasa ama Pwani sio Kenya, the leadership of the nation should be able to recognize something else. There has been marginalization and deprivation of some areas in this country. And some of our people have gone to Mombasa and the coastal strips, not for the interest of developing the communities, but for taking beach plots. And not only that, grabbing land that is supposed to be for the coast people for themselves. Now, The reason why then the communities will say, look, unless we secede, these fellows are going to finish us, right? Then you understand. You understand it is the political balkanization that is actually working here. And you have it also in the Rift Valley. The Rift Valley is saying this, Gikuyus walikuja wakachukua mashamba yetu, move them out of this place. The Coast Province is saying the same. In fact, we are saying if Kenya addressed the historical injustice, it would have been able to pacify our people and we would be a united nation. We have not created ourselves into a nation. We still remain ethnic cocoons which claim for themselves liberties, but provided it is their people that benefit even in the national forum, right? So you go to the ministries and some communities think they are the ones supposed to occupy those ministries, those offices. And you go to the ministries and you find it is two communities occupying the whole ministry. So what happens to the rest? People start fighting.
It exposes
even for their own secession. It exposes marginalization. That is the injustice that is creating that. It is not about heroism. In fact, I have talked to some of the people that belong to MRC or Islamic, whatever it is, and they have told me in confidence that they were doing this so that the country can relax marginalization and exclusion, so that they can be able to survive like the rest of the nation. Do you know there are people?
Thank you very much for speaking to us. We've got to end it here. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Njeri. We wish
God bless you, and please work for the right heroism, not about these fake and plastic things.
Asante sana. Have a great day, Mtumishi.
Asante sana ndugu yangu. May God bless you.
Thank you.
Njeri Thorne is a Secretary General of Ford Asili. He is also among the leaders who spearheaded the Saba Saba movement in the Second Liberation. Time for us to take a break right here on KTN Home and Spice FM. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So what do you make of that? How do we identify our heroes, and how do we then say that this person deserves to be called a hero and this other person doesn't deserve to be called a hero?
And when you say we, who are you referring to?
Country.
Yes.
We as a people of
And
Kenya.
who? No. You are assuming that there'll be a homogeneous perspective on who we consider a hero. And I'm saying that is not true. People will have their own variation of what they think a hero should be and what the terminology for a hero should comprise.
Should we have sort of a unified approach? Not even a unified, even if it's some sort of definition of then this person who makes a hero. A person who goes and recruits people to join Al-Shabaab, is that a hero?
Among his people,
A certain community there could say, this is our hero. But is that a hero? Is that somebody who is doing something for the greater good of that community?
There would be, you see, the perspective that I hold is this. Even as we evolve over a period of time, our value systems also change. Now, heroism, as we call it, Mashujaa, and the individuals who occupy that space called Mashujaa, they are a product of that system that we have. There are communities where helping someone is considered normal. You ought to. In fact, it's an aberration if you do not. Now, others, people rarely do go out of their way to do any such thing. And if they do, they may be considered a hero. Now, if you look at that terminology in its entirety, I think this is one of those situations where you'll want to put it to the test and ask, what do you think a hero should be? Or who do you think a hero should be? What constitutes the term heroism for you?
For an individual, because
Yes.
then, exactly, because then people's perceptions and people's thoughts would be different across board, regardless of how you choose to look at it.
Freedom
Hero
fight-
for someone
Yes.
could be that it's a freedom fighter. That I have the space to operate in which I'm operating today, that freedom fighter did that. They will forever remain a hero in my mind, and nobody else could come close.
And even if you look at the freedom fighter, the term and the functions evolved. Second liberation, people didn't go to the forest, they went to the streets.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, we continue this conversation today. We are dedicating this Mashujaa Day show to identifying our heroes. Start with that. How do we define a hero? Who is a Shujaa? How do we define that Shujaa? We'll be discussing that in the next hour. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, guys. So, unfortunately, 2 accidents have happened on Thika Road today. Could it be that the roads are slippery and people are going much faster than they should be because there's no traffic? I do not know. But 2 accidents on Thika Road today, outbound on one and inbound on the other. So as you approach, please approach with caution because those have yet been removed and police are hopefully on the way to be able to sort that out. Apart from that, there really is no traffic. Mombasa Road is looking good all the way from Lolongo through to the stadium at Nyayo and then through to Westlands. Looking good, guys. Not much traffic today, but still we're going to ask you to be careful so you don't get into a sticky situation on this Mashujaa Day. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter or text us 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Mashujaa Day, this 20th day of the 10th month of the year. Good morning and asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, of course, like you've heard, is Eric Latiff, Nduh Okoh, and C.T. Muga, who has today's proverb.
I do have today's proverb. Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Other people's wisdom, king, fool.
Yes. To understand this, just look around the continent and ask yourself, the continent of Africa, that is, the role of advisors. There is no leadership on this continent. Of course, I'm sure it's the same in the rest of the world, but I'm focusing on the continent where people don't have advisors. Now, you'll find that some countries have more advisors than others. Some have so many, you even wonder, okay, are they more advisors than their ministers? But there's a reason why they have those advisors. Yes.
Iko sababu.
There is a reason why they have those advisors. And there's a reason why those specific individuals are chosen.
Others are even inherited by a king.
Yes. If
So
indeed you're a
from
king,
king to the successors.
yes, your father's advisors become your advisors. Yes. And you may retire them as you see fit and bring in your own. In our circumstances, it's not so much your father's, but your predecessor will have advisors. And many advisors in this country are actually on government payroll. And there is equivalent of their position within government. Usually it's permanent secretary. Yes.
And actually, even in the counties now, we have advisor, somebody who's paid, and their title is economic advisor to the governor, or political advisor to His Excellency, the governor.
See, in a political system, many positions, it is argued, are created to prefer gifts on those who have, at some point or the other, been useful to this particular leader who is now at the helm.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it serves a useful purpose. If you're talking about a monarchy, it's at the king's whim. After all, in a kingdom, the king owned everything, including the people. So they decided and they determined what happened and how it happened and when it happened.
You serve the king.
You serve the king.
with the pleasure of the king.
Yes.
So when you talk about heroes, and just reflecting on the conversation we've had with Njeri Thorne, heroes, he started by saying somebody who takes their time, who dedicates their time to a certain cause, even if it's a simple cause of going to rescue a child who's fallen into a pit latrine, that is a hero. And in his perspective, somebody who is doing it for financial gain, for monetary gain, whatever, that is not a hero, that's a celebrity. Somebody who is a musician, is an artist. Yes, they are singing very well. Yes, they are recognized globally and they are known as Kenyan, this Kenyan global star who is, in Hollywood. This is Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o is a celebrity, not necessarily a hero. Somebody else, talking about athletes and sports personalities, those are celebrities, in his opinion.
Yes, and in his opinion, we are narrowing the definition tremendously. Because you are saying that those who are considered to be trailblazers in any form must be confined. For you to actually be known as a hero, you must be confined to some political process or some social process that involves you representing people and risking your life, and essentially you stand out.
Sure.
Because there may be other people who do the same thing, but occasion and time and place may not have given them that spotlight that you have. And remember the category of people we referred to as unsung heroes. There are many.
There are very many.
There are many.
Yeah.
There are many people who've done things that other people, not that they didn't want to, just never thought of doing. Now, when somebody is offered, you mentioned Lupita Nyong'o. She was offered
Oscar.
That is the name. I was looking for the name Oscar. It doesn't get higher in that particular world. The whole country celebrates. Wherever she comes, everyone rejoices.
Yep.
So, surely, must a hero necessarily be someone who fights physically? Must they always risk their life, or must they stand out only? Because
the standing out, I see where he was going, and although I may not completely agree with him, but does standing out then necessarily make you a hero?
It does.
Or does standing out, if you stand out, so for example, Tekla Lorupe, right? She is a world-renowned athlete, but then she comes back to the community and, using her position, goes ahead to foster peace in her community because she knows that this is what is ailing my community. She champions peace. She takes a front row seat in advancing and advocating peace and harmonious coexistence of her people. You see, she has taken her time. She has used this particular celebrity status of hers. She has used the access that she has to global news outlets, to global influential personalities to highlight an issue back home. That is a hero.
I would argue she was a hero even before she did that. She just piled it on.
Because she ran and won?
She didn't just, you see, she was a woman. She ran. She was doing something that other people had not done.
Women run.
Oh, yes. But they didn't win like she did.
Women run. There's a winner in a women's race.
Yes. What makes you stand out, one, is that you compete. You get to the point where you're competing on a global stage. That in itself is a big enough achievement. Should you win, should you be recognized, whether you're first, second, or third, that in itself is achievement. Believe me, if you consider those early athletes, some of whom ran barefooted in the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games, all right? In the absence of those runners, people would not know what Kenya was even.
Or even encourage others.
No, they wouldn't. Or where Kenya was either. You wouldn't know. Because for many people, there's a country called Africa, where all Africans come from. Okay? You tell them Kenya, they say, okay, so Kenya. Or some have heard of Nairobi, so they say, okay, so you say you're from Kenya. Oh, so which part of Nairobi is it in? And you're thinking, all right, yeah, we really have to take a journey for you to understand this.
Right.
That they give us the limelight. You see, that limelight isn't just theirs. They share it with us because of where they come from.
I think because of the fact that it's subject to perception for very many people in terms of their experience, you cannot then take the definition of hero and subject it to one thing. Because it means so.
But there has to be something underlying.
Sure,
yes.
I mean there has to be
there has to be a
common thread.
If there's nothing, like, for me, maybe the benefit would be if there's no benefit to the society, then whatever you're doing
Sure, I agree that there has to be a common thread. You must stand out. There must be something that somebody is benefiting because of this act that you do on a regular basis, right? Whether you do it and you get some kind of commercial compensation, whether you do it and you get some kind of national recognition, whatever it is, there's got to be some common thread that runs. However, then you cannot then say that this class of people falls out of the definition of hero because of what they do. I don't think... Because it's subjective on so many different ways, there can't be hard lines. There can be a common thread, but then there can't be hard lines within which the definition must play. And then you can't color outside of the lines because of that.
We've been focusing on national heroism, and we're forgetting that even within communities, there are people who... Yes, and community, there are people who stand out. For instance, someone who educates not his children but his relatives.
You see, there's benefit. There's something underlying.
There's always benefit.
Just because
there's always benefit, Eric.
Just because somebody stands out. You know, if you're just the richest person from this village, everybody knows that ile nyumba ni ya so and so, but that person is never seen here. That person does not interact with the community. Is that person the community's hero?
No.
There you go.
Point blank. No.
There you go. But let's hear from Mwalimu Kamau because he's called in and we just want to hear what he has to say. Mwalimu, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Mwalimu?
I'm very fine. I hope you're all fine also.
We are well, thank you, Mwalimu.
I want to talk of what you're talking there in my own perspective. Yeah? Being a hero does not mean that you must have a lot of money or a lot of properties or something like that, yeah? Or materials per se.
Yeah.
According to me, a hero is that person who impacts an individual in a way he will or she will never forget. For example, that person who has that money and decide to use his or her money to educate or to bring some development in that village, that man or woman remain to be a hero of that village forever. That is not in the community level. You can have all the monies in the world, but you are not impacting anything to the community or to our country. You cannot be referred as a hero. There are these people who do athletics or they do a lot of sports. There are those who outstand others. They go in and they earn a lot, then they come with what they have earned, they are influenced, they bring it down here to the community. This person is referred or regarded by the people down there as a hero because he or she has used what he has to help the people down here. But there are those who will use what they have in Nairobi here. They don't take anything down there. Yes, they have won gold. That will not make him or her to be a hero to a common mwananchi down here. But he can be a hero to the country because the country will regard him or her. He wants a gold to the country.
So you're a hero if you talk kitu kidogo.
You are a hero when people see you that way. That's how you become a hero. For example, if I'm a teacher here, I don't only become a hero when I teach in class, then I go home. I must follow up what I teach to my boys and girls, maybe wherever they go out there.
Mwalimu, if the students you teach did exceptionally well in the national exam, would you be considered a hero?
If they do exceptionally well.
Yes, or let's just say if they do well.
Yes, if they do well, I am not supposed to be regarded as a hero because the children themselves are the ones who have done all that. They have passed. But you know, there is passing and there is now the other life. You can pass, then things go wrong as you continue growing. What did you impact to these boys and girls?
Mwalimu, when you were a student, think about it in school. Were there not people who were celebrated because they're always number one?
The ones who are celebrated most of the time, even you see in the national television and all those things, the ones who are celebrated are not even teachers. The ones who are celebrated are the students themselves.
Precisely. But Mwalimu, the point I'm trying to make is in the community that you work in or in the school that you work in, not every teacher has all their students passing that particular paper, but someone whose students excel, surely they are looked up to, because that's where heroism begins.
But
You're
do you
looked up
become
to.
a hero just because you've done your job well?
That's the question I want to ask. Are you considered a hero?
If you look at it, Molly, if you want to think about this, look at those if you just want to look at education, for example, look at those who stood out. Because you teach, your students sit an exam, they pass, that kind of thing, which is what you're required to do. But look at those that have stood out and those who've been recognized even on a global platform. What is it that they have done? Gone out of their way to make sure that their students are comfortable outside of the hours of class, made sure that they're understanding the concepts that are even being taught during a normal class session, make sure that the student-teacher relationship is so comfortable that even when they don't understand something, that they would ask above and beyond the initial call. And that's where you find that recognition has come. And that's where you find that even the students, recognize them, that without this teacher's added input, I would not have been where I am today. And I think that's the difference.
True. It is not only about classwork.
Not
only about classwork.
But then you would find that the influence that they've made outside of class would then have an impact of what they did in class and would make the bigger difference overall. And I think those are the things that we are looking at.
Yes, that's how you are recognized as a great teacher, not only in class, also to what you do after class.
Good insights there, Mwalimu. Asante sana. We wish you a happy Mashujaa Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were asking something with that question, and did you get the answer that you were looking for?
I wanted a discussion to come out of that question.
Just because the point I think I got from your question is, just because you've done your job,
yes,
and you've done it exceptionally well,
yes,
does that then qualify you to be a hero?
That really is the heart of the matter.
Because we recognize and we always fet people who do their jobs well.
We do.
That's the reason why an athlete is given a gold medal, because they have done exceptionally well.
They've done better than others who wanted the same gold medal.
And they have won.
Yes.
So does that make you a hero?
Yes, it does. You see, that's why I went back to the days when we were in school. There are people who stood out, and they're spoken of years later, decades later. People still speak about this classmate they had, this schoolmate they had, who ran better than everybody else, who did better in class than everybody else, or who even did better in a particular subject than anybody else. Anything that is considered remarkable, it's remarkable because there are other people who are engaged in that same activity, but you have excelled, you have done better. In the same way, a teacher is feted because there are other teachers in the school. But this is the one teacher whose subject people seem to continuously do well in. Now, what you are spot on about is like you've taught, my dear. It's the relationship the teacher has with the students. Beyond just teaching, there's a way in which this particular teacher relates to the students, and the students resonate.
Sure.
So students will be more industrious in that subject. They will want to pass. So in addition to that, the teacher may also have a good communication ability. Not all teachers have good communication ability.
So is passing then, the fact that your students have passed very well, an indicator that you have done all these things? It's not just you came and you understood your subject so well and you stood there for 40 minutes in a lesson and you taught very well. It's also that you had the others.
Yes, you do.
The other qualities.
You know why it's also very easy to judge, if I may use the word judge, is because you don't teach only one subject in the school.
Sure.
And these students don't only learn from you. They learn from others. So there's that comparative situation where you'll ask, but there are other subjects that these students also do. Why is it then that they don't perform as they perform in that other subject? And that's what makes you stand out. There must be something that you know that you do that ensures that these students bring out their best.
There's a story we heard that became a really famous movie about a school that had really gone to the dogs, and a teacher then went into this school and to teach a subject, just to teach one simple subject like other teachers were teaching. And the thing is that what he did is that, yes, he began to teach his normal mathematics and such, but then he began to find out what was the problem with these students. Why did you have so many students who were doing so poorly when it came to schoolwork, right? So he then began to find out on a personal experience, what is going on with you? Can we be able to help here and there? What can we do to then make your classroom experience much better, that you can actually do well in school, get a GED as it is in the United States, and then be able to get that certificate which allows you to go further. Their home experience was something that was deplorable in many situations. So he didn't have to. He could have come, taught his mathematics, and gone home. just like everybody else. If the school gets a poor rating, okay, we try next year. But what did he do? With the funds that he had, he went through funds drives. He did so many things to make sure that these students not only do well in his class, but then make sure that in the other classes where they're having trouble, can the experience that they have outside of life be contributing to the poor performance? Absolutely. So what can we do? Get them involved in other programs whereby their social and mental health is also being taken care of. Those students didn't just remember Mr. X's mathematics class, but they remembered their experience and how it lifted them out of. So would he be regarded as a hero? Absolutely, because he went above and beyond the call of his particular duty and said, I want to make an impact in these people's lives. Of what benefit was it to him? No. Was there an extra $1 on his paycheck because he did it? Absolutely not. But he took an interest and he made the sacrifice to make sure that it was done.
It is assumed
that's the thing. You are taking your time.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not during the time where you're supposed to be earning, but extra.
Extra.
You're going above and beyond. Teacher Tabichi, when he was being feted globally, it's because of the same. It's because of what he does beyond, above and beyond the hours that he's supposed to be working.
You see, we assume that there is no reward. There's something called satisfaction. It could be psychological, it could be otherwise, but there is a reward. There are people who take great pride and joy in excelling or in doing what they do. Others don't and don't consider it to be important. If we go back into history and we hear the stories of people who were teachers in the really, let's talk about independence. If we go too much further back, it might not make sense. Teachers more or less responded to the educational call in the same way. And so that's why we found a whole generation of people who are very highly respected because they did the same thing. Now, in the modern times we live in, we find that respect is not the same because the whole process of teaching and the manner in which it is approached has also changed with time. Okay? Well, I have a theory about it, but this isn't the time to discuss that theory. The point I'm making with education is this. The process of ensuring that you help informing the student's world view, I'm putting it as simplistic as I possibly can, that helps shape that person's future. Now, anyone who does that sort of thing and does it well, in my opinion, that's something that very, very few people will actually ever be able to do. The only people who could compete with them is the parents. But when one is a student, one spends more time
with this teacher
than they do even with the parents, and for a long time. So that work that they do, when it stands out, if you ask me, and given the communal benefits of it, that person is definitely a hero. Now, I know what's going on through your mind.
What? What is that?
So you're pushing this agenda because
you're a teacher?
Yes. No, I'm pushing the agenda because...
You want Mashujaa Day to be happy Mashujaa, walimu Mashujaa Day.
No, there are other people who do something similar, but the uniqueness of that profession has to be pointed out.
Indeed. And I think when we started asking ourselves, then how do we define a hero? There's an underlying, even if it's not homogeneous, yes, that this person is a hero on the other, but there's something that is common with all of them. The common thread is what it is that you do dedicatedly, that
stands out.
It can be seen that you dedicate for the benefit of others, not for your own benefit. If you're just doing something for yourself, if you are, just like I said, you accumulate wealth, you become wealthy, and you live in your own bubble, you do not interact very well with others, you're not a hero. Yes, you're rich, but you're not. You're wealthy, but you're not necessarily a hero. But if you seek to uplift others, if you seek, even if not just by paying, but by spending time with other people, by offering counsel to other people, by sitting there and being the person that they can engage with and ask for, opinion here and there. You can offer your opinion. You can offer your hand. You're spending some time, your own time, from your very busy schedule, for the benefit of the community. Then the community can therefore say, for this reason or the other, he does this. They'll not say it because he spends his time. It's because of the outcome.
Okay, let me ask this question.
Because he planted trees.
Yes.
Because he educated people. Because he contributed to the building of this school. Because it's the actions, the outcome of your actions that people will use to identify you as a hero.
Okay. If someone is a first in the community or a first in the country, Julius Kiano, first
Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano,
PhD.
first PhD in Kenya. Is that a hero?
That's a question I'm asking. Or the
Professor
first
Wangari Maathai,
Dai.
first
Yes.
woman PhD.
Okay.
I don't think that beckons heroism, unfortunately, because anybody could have gone and read.
But they didn't.
However,
They didn't.
but then people came so that anybody
And they're not the only ones who got that opportunity.
Yeah, sure, but if that is going to be used as the prerequisite, then anybody who got a PhD thereafter could be a hero.
No, not the first.
No. First, my premise
is Neil Armstrong a hero?
He was
Yes.
trying to walk on the moon.
There.
Yes.
So is he a hero?
How did he use his moonwalk to
First
benefit
step,
the lives of
one
the
little
people
step,
using?
one little step by man. It was a giant.
Did you call it?
step
Did
for
you talk
mankind.
about moonwalk?
moonwalk.
He inspired Michael Jackson.
If you're going to talk about the benefit on the
Yes.
lives of human beings,
Let's open up the phone lines and then join us in this conversation this morning. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. You can SMS us 40127 or text us or tweet us or even post your comment on Facebook, Spice FM KE. How do we define a hero? Because after this, we'll then be identifying and reaching out to you to tell us a hero in your community and what they've done. Today, we want to celebrate Mashujaas in our country. Happy Mashujaa Day. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to take a break at 25 minutes past 8. We'll be back on Spice FM and KTN Home.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Next week on the Great Kenyan Bake Off.
Come on now. Please don't burn.
The bakers from Heat 2 are back in the tent for their own biscuit week.
Well, I'm hoping for the best.
The bakers struggle with some tacky technicals
Hard to please millionaires.
and produce some show-stopping creations. Tune in to find out whose biscuits will snap
Come on.
and whose cookies will crumble.
Beautiful. I love it.
I would like a whole bag of those.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
it's cloudy in Nairobi at 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 today and lows of 14 with thunderstorms in the forecast. And in Nakuru, thunderstorms also in the forecast with highs of 21 and lows of 13. At 17 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. Njeri, light rain showers going on at the moment at 16 degrees, highs of 22 and lows of 14, and the rain is likely to continue through the day. In Mombasa, it's 27 and mostly sunny, highs of 30 and lows of 24, and a chance of rain later on. Malindi is partly cloudy at 27, highs of 29 and lows of 25, and a chance of rains there as well. Kisumu is mostly cloudy at 22, highs of 26 and lows of 19. Also here with a chance of rains. Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 19 degrees. Thunderstorms are looking like in the afternoon, highs of 23 and lows of 15. Kampala is cloudy at 19. Rains coming in anytime now, highs of 23 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 22. And Joburg will experience sunshine throughout today at 19, highs of 31 and lows of 16. And finally, for now, we're in Lagos. It's partly cloudy at 31, highs of 32 and lows of 24.
Traffic.
Not much of that today, except for the 2 accidents that we saw on Thika Road today. You need to take care as you approach, especially outbound, because that one is yet to be cleared up and involved a lorry. So as you're approaching, it's not standing there. It's been in an accident. So ahead might be a problem. So please be careful. There's been a hit and run in Ruiru as well, and that is affecting traffic in that area. People are going a lot slower than they would on a day when traffic would not normally be recorded. Okay, on Mombasa Road, it's looking pretty good. Looking on Jogo Road as well, not much, actually, no traffic whatsoever. It's a good day to be out on the road. Be careful, however, because they're still slippery and we don't want you going too fast and causing problems in terms of accidents. Okay, so apart from that, it's looking good, guys. I don't think we have much of a problem. If it picks up later on and you get stuck somewhere, we might be able to let you, use the bypass. Nobody's there, that's for sure. Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Call us. No, text us. 40127.
Spice of everything nice, everything nice. Spice everything.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We want you to call in and join this conversation and help us define, how do we define a hero? And here, because this is Mashujaa Day, is a national celebration, we're talking about national heroes. Okay? So he brought in the issue of Dr. Julius Gikonyokeano, Professor Wangari Maathai, and others, because you are the first to do something. Ben Kipchoge Keino, first to do something, first to win a gold medal for Kenya, first to win a medal at an international athletics event for the country. Does that make you a hero?
Yes, it most certainly does.
Because you
actually get
trailblazing.
You are trailblazing and your country gets known.
You put your country on the map.
Yes, so people get to know. Because of you, this one individual, people now know.
So had it not been for you, people would not have known who Kenya was.
Unless they had an interest in that part of the world, they wouldn't.
Or that Kenya had maybe the potential to create more athletes. Had it not been for Kano's gold at that point, or medal at that point, it would not have been known that other potential athletes then were in this country.
These people could run even before we knew there was an Olympic, before we knew there was Commonwealth. They could run. They were known. Maybe they had village competitions, all right? But the moment you had people going to run in the Commonwealth or Olympics representing Kenya, it means they had run at a local level first.
Sure.
And they had excelled and they had done better than other runners. So because this opportunity came up, it was felt, look, it wasn't just running. There were other sports that people represent the country in. But running is where our athletes have actually excelled completely. So with the more they excelled, the more they got known and the more they gave opportunity for other people who clearly had that ability but had never seen it as anything important other than just having it.
What did he do, Kano, for example, if you want to look at now his contributions? What did he do after the fact? After he had won this award, and then what did he engage himself in that would then impact the lives of other people, aside from putting Kenya's name on the map?
He participated in the sport. He helped to be a captain of the team. He helped by being a coach of others in the police service. He was working in the police service.
Exactly.
He worked with others in the police service,
impacting the lives of other
which he was doing
athletes.
even before he won before he won that medal.
Right, but then winning this medal, did it not give him an even greater platform then to be able to help out in the ways in which he did?
Yep.
There you go.
So that makes him a hero?
He could have chosen not to.
So can we
he
then
could
say...
have chosen to bask in his fame and just continue doing whatever he wanted to do. He could have.
Eric, let me explain this to you. As a child, there were two names I kept hearing whenever we had school athletics. This is primary school. There's a guy called Serafina Antao. He was a sprinter. Kenyan of Goan extract. Then there's a gentleman called Nyantika Mayoro. Okay? Came from Gusii land. People who ran fast got either name because they were being associated with this. And it could even become a nickname.
Sure.
So because, okay, not TV, no TV to speak of in the early days, but at least there was radio and you knew, and there were newspapers, so you read. Now, even at an early stage, running then became just beyond you having the ability to sort of like run faster. It became something that gave you fame. Note, it was new fame. Now, because of these people and those who had run long before them, what then happened was we built an entire industry in this country on just that. Entire. And so Kenya even got to a point where we are now recognized and known. Like there are certain events that is considered a Kenyan event. Because Kenyans have won it for so long, they almost seem unbeatable. Now the news is when someone else wins in that particular discipline. But it's good. What am I saying? I am saying that even if someone is just a local hero in the household, you start off by being the one who runs faster than everybody else to go to school. Then in the village, you run faster than everybody else. You are the local village hero. Now, when that ability is taken on a bigger platform, you then become a national hero. Example is someone who does well in class. People who got scholarships and went abroad you started doing well in your village. Then you went to a higher level. Then you went to a place which had national prominence. There were more people. And from there, you went elsewhere. Now, if you look at heroism in that aspect, there are people who fought, physically went to the forest to fight. How did others become generals? How did others become leaders? Because there was something that they did that others who were there did not do as well as them. Not that they didn't, but as well. And right across, whether it is from the days of the first African, people like Nicholas Nganga, who actually, well, he wasn't the first. There were others Africans who had gone before him, but better known, him and Peter Shuka. We feted them because they were doing something. It was a sport we assumed that only Caucasians and Kenyans of Asian origin participated in. The guy called Joginder Singh, for the longest time. When you drove, it was said, this guy drives like Joginder Singh. Yes. Now, was that person a hero? Were these people heroes? But in my mind, they were.
And that's the issue. Does a celebrity necessarily then become a hero?
What I would ask...
When you're a celebrity, you're being celebrated in the public domain because of what you're doing in your life, in whatever career. As a celebrity, then, do you become a national hero?
Yes. If you are a trailblazer, you are a hero. You are a hero. Because you set an example that others can follow. And some may ask, but setting that example doesn't make you a hero. It does. Because the going to the forest, the fighting, the agitating is what gave birth to the street protests. People had seen that this could be done, and you didn't need to go to any forest to do it. The forest now became the concrete jungle that we have. And right now, the fight is on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on social media. But it's the same agitation. The content, the thinking, the ethos around it is the same. Yes. So if you're looking for heroism, at every level you must identify. There are people who are just heroes in their own homes. There are people they live with. Then you expand it, maybe the community within which they live. There are others who you expand it further until you get to the national level.
So then asking yourself, these heroes that are recognized on a national level, what is the prerequisite or what are the attributes then are looked for to say that they be celebrated then by country?
Impact.
Yeah.
Impact at national level. At whatever degree of impact, then that's what now would classify the hero from one to the other, but there has to be impact. But then there are so many people who have impact. And then you'll ask, again, going to asking ourselves, do we then, so for example, you've talked about Nicholas Nganga. Nicholas Nganga, what at national level, what national award has he been given? He's been given a burning spear,
Yes.
just an MBS actually.
Yes.
He was Moran, Elder. He was Elder. Elder of Burning Spear. Above Elder of Burning Spear, and he was given in 1980s. Since then, he has done so many. He has led...
He's done many things.
He has led many boards. He has led many organizations. He's done all these things. He has not gone to Chief of Burning Spear, for example. Somebody else who comes in and, is a political celebrity and all, is a political celebrity, gets to Elder of the Golden Heart. This is the second highest in the Republic. Why? Because you're a political celebrity. Now then, are we placing all these people in the same pedestal?
That's where we muddy the waters.
I think that's where we mess up.
That's where we muddy the waters. And we make a mockery of these national awards.
And you make a mockery of the efforts that other people have genuinely made in making an impact. I think that's what happens. Because somebody cannot, unfortunately, just walk into, by virtue of the fact that they held a position in a particular office, they're given this hero status.
Yep.
And you want to compare that and even give somebody who has made impact, short of losing their lives in some cases, a step down, a step lower.
Eric, let's go back to Wangari Maathai, vilified in her own country.
Yeah.
Somebody else figures, no. These achievements actually could give you a Nobel Prize.
The world.
Yes. What she stood for and what she did stood out. It stood out in the same way as those of the Second Liberation who kept pushing the agenda for an open society.
Yeah.
Same. They were pushing, it's just in different fields, but the idea was the same. They were pushing for that very same thing. But then, when you then have people who get awards and you're wondering that this, because me, sir, I actually don't know what they stand for. Is this the award for the House of the Hopping Monkey? Or what? You wonder, who on earth?
If you have to ask yourself to try and remember what it is that this individual actually did.
First of all, who is this individual?
Who are they? If you have to ask yourself who
it's
they
an
are,
achievement
then
in its
there's a
own. For
problem.
example, if you're made the leader of what's it now called? Not government business. The leader of the majority coalition in the National Assembly, leader of majority in the National Assembly,
you will get an award.
Or leader of majority in the Senate, you become EGH. That's clear. That is the second highest. The only other above that is the president, the CGH. You become EGH.
Isn't it ridiculous?
And it doesn't matter whether you're 5 years into politics, you get it.
It's ridiculous.
But isn't it? But when
that question you want to ask? No.
When 300 members of parliament have basically bestowed upon you this honor of being their leader, and this is a national leadership
Eric,
role.
that self-congratulatory process.
It is national leadership role.
Okay.
These are the people who help the leadership of this arm of government to function.
If you go back to say the speakers we've had in this country, two of them stand out for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's one Ole Kaparo and there's one Marende, right? They had a way of steering that parliament, and the manner in which Kaparo was known for injecting humor anytime there was something a bit contentious. Marende stood out at the very beginning of his tenure and the decisions that he made. And it was made clear to us when we had Mashujaa here who explained to us exactly what they went through in order to achieve those things.
Yep.
Now, if you ask me, given the times we're in and the heat that was in the country and the polarization, that person stands out. If you award him that EGH, I would say, by all means, award those two individuals who are in those seats the EGH. Others are just speakers. They're just going through the normal process of what they should do. There's nothing that stands out.
When somebody becomes president of a country, gets the CGH automatically, it's an achievement.
Yes, it is an achievement.
It's a national honor by the people of the Republic to say that you shall be our head of state, you shall be our head of government.
Yes.
That is an honor.
Yes.
So they're a hero.
Yes.
What if it's in a country where they rigged the election?
No. Eric, I think we have to split hairs here.
What if they
being
rigged the
given
election?
A president is not necessarily a hero.
No, not necessarily. It's just the president. That's his job, and his job comes with that title.
And you came and you asked for it.
And the job comes with the award. Yeah. So you just said you become president, you get it. Okay, so having been president, what have you done?
What have you done to get there?
Yes. I mean, no. What have you done? An award should be for achievement. What have you?
With this presidency,
here's the
what did you
achievement. Here's the
Well, even
not
before
with the
that.
job. Here's the achievement. For you to be elected president, you've gone around the country and convinced people why they ought to lay their trust with you.
What if you rig the election?
There are other mechanisms for dealing with
I
that.
think
So
what
we are
Eric is saying that
at
you
the
also
point when-
awarded for doing so effectively. Yes.
No. There's something that people have. You have stood out. You have stood out in the country. You've stood out as this person who has gone around the country. You have convinced people that this is what I stand for, that this is what we need to do as a country, and this is how we shall lead ourselves as a country going forward, as a nation, as one nation going forward.
All right.
That is heroism.
So when
heroism.
When we consider at the end of your tenure that you haven't done this thing, do we strip you
of this hero
that
status?
title?
You may choose to do that. If you want to take this person through court and all, you may choose to strip them.
No, not just court. You don't go to court to award this person this thing. It's just, it comes with the job.
You see, the thing whether now we believe that you've done the job or not, that will always be...
As they say, it is subjective.
It is subjective.
Mean, somebody has an opinion.
So,
But the reason why I mentioned...
But the fact that you occupied that and the fact that you did not go through any legal or legally known process that stripped you of the honors, then you still keep those honors. The honors you are our hero.
No. Because you have gotten a state commendation.
No, because you have been bestowed upon the trust of the nation by the people of Kenya.
If you say by being president, I would say
president.
yes, but that I would not disagree with you.
The others are the ones that you have an issue
No, I have a serious
leader
issue
of the majority in the National Assembly.
You just step up to the plate and then let me give you an example of a hero that many think about, right? Let me just read it to you and then you can do this, compare vis-a-vis to this one that you say won an election and then sits at, what did you call? Leader of the majority. Joan of Arc, let me just read it short. A peasant girl living in medieval France believed that God had chosen her to lead France to victory in its long-running war with England. With no military training, Joan convinced the embattled Crown Prince Charles of Valois to allow her lead a French army to the besieged city of Orleans, where it achieved a momentous victory over the English and their French allies, the Burgundians. After seeing the prince crowned King Charles VII, Joan was captured by Anglo-Burgundian forces, tried for witchcraft and heresy, and burned at the stake at 1431 at the age of 19. Had it not been for this convincing that she did, blood, sweat, and tears, you probably would not have seen the unity and nationalism that you did in France. Compare all of that at the age of 19 to somebody who's even been given sainthood right now. Compare all of that, just as an example, to somebody who is leader of the majority.
Which century was this again?
In the 13th century.
Okay, how long?
Just as an example, it's an example.
Yes. I'm
how long did people
live in that time? Yes.
No, this one was burned at the stake. They killed her.
But was she at the ripe old age of 19?
Ripe old age of 19.
Okay, carry on. I think you get my point.
0719-012-600 or 40127 or also Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Tell us, how do we identify national heroes? How do you define the national heroes in this country? What is it that stands out and something that you can say that this person, yes, they deserve to be recognized as national heroes? When you're celebrating Mashujaa, who are these Mashujaa? How do we identify them?
What is this thing that needs to be done? What is this thing that nobody has thought of doing that you have done? And what is this thing, if you combine the two or even if you separate them, that has made you stand out? That standing out and the deed that we speak of, that makes you the hero. If it is something that is acceptable, you could be a fantastic thief.
Are you a hero?
There are people who think you're a hero. There's a gentleman we keep referring to called Robin Hood.
He was a thief?
Yep.
Yes, but...
However, he gave to the poor, which he took from the rich.
So we're told. Okay, so it's a nice story, and there's a nice ring to it, but he was a thief. Okay?
He was a hustler.
There are those who would argue that there were extenuating circumstances. Okay? Now, that was a monarchy.
Right.
Such things could not be done. The term hero, I think, you have to start by asking the individual who they think their hero is. And then when they've told you, tell them, how do you define this? How does this person qualify to be a hero in your eyes?
Vincent says, heroism is acting voluntarily for the service of others who are in need, be it for an individual, in a group, or a community. So this is one, example that say, you know what, that you can see on a national platform, that you can see for everybody to take notice of. Helping those who are in need, helping those, whether it be for an individual on a regular basis, for a group or a community. There's a hero in an individual, according to Levi. Then there's a hero to a nation, and that's how I agree with my hero, Njeri Thorne. Home guards of then and of today are never heroes. They are the exact opposite of heroism. What one word describes them? Julia says, I think talent cannot be classified as heroism because then all those who excel in any field would then be deemed as heroes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it isn't an exclusion sport, this idea of being a hero. There can be many heroes. It doesn't have to be one. There could be an entire community of heroes.
But talent is not heroism.
The usage of it in a way that stands out.
Impact.
Yes.
To others.
Yes. Because there are people who have talents and they sit on it, they sleep on it, they never put it to use.
They use it for their own good, which many would say there's no problem with that. You have a talent, you use it for your own good, that's fine. But then you can't qualify to be a hero. But what stands out, and I think we know this.
Paul
already,
Tergat is a hero because of what he's done. He's used his position. He has won the, at the world stage, he has broken his own record many times. He has 5-time world cross-country champion and all those things. Coming back home, what has he done? Using his position, he has had impact in the community.
I mean, yeah, sure. If you want to
programs
look
that
at,
he has run and supported.
and if you want to
That
look
is
at
a
like
hero.
sponsorship of sport, if you look at Paul Tergat for as an example, you saw that the sports world really began budding with some of the input that he made to make sure that sportsmen and women were more recognized, to make sure that within you had more and more people coming out and supporting local sporting heroes, directly because of the impact that he had, directly because of his input to make sure that this happened. Many could argue that without that, you would not have seen it graduate to the levels that it has today. And it stands out for you, and you wouldn't even question. You wouldn't ask, who is that, right? Because you know. You wouldn't have to ask, who is that?
If you enter a workplace and you're all at the same level, and over time, one or two people rise to the very top, and one of them even ends up being what we call a CEO. Is that person a hero?
No.
No.
They're just someone who has excelled.
Yeah.
So at what point do they become a hero?
They become a hero, I guess, at some point where then they use that position to impact, right, the wider community, not just those that they work with, but also beyond the organization that they work for. So, for instance, you can look at various CEOs and see there's a certain CEO who stands out. James Mwangi, for example, stands out. Why does he stand out? Not just because he has led Equity Bank from a small bank to a big bank, from a housing, it was what, Equity Building Society, to a bank that's listed in the stock exchange that has branches across the region. But what has he done as a person? When you look at James Mwangi's then individual contribution to the betterment of society, championing and pushing that the bank then sponsors many other children to go through school.
Wings to Fly
program and such others. These are things that James has actually used his position to champion for the benefit of
So would you say that the
society.
late Bob Collymore is also a hero?
Yes. Using his position to champion,
because I'm agreeing with you.
Using his position to champion the betterment of society. Even if you just look at Just Jazz and what he did with the Nairobi Horns project, picking people from, are they from Mathare or what? And they now have a national stage.
In that case, in the name I mentioned earlier, Nicholas Ngang also becomes a hero because he was chairman of Safaricom during that entire period when they did these wonderful and marvelous things that had hitherto actually not been seen on the corporate scene.
Yep. I'd say yes, they become heroes. Even if you look at now the local, go to a village and find there's somebody who has sponsored children through school, has a way of identifying who is it that is in need. I'm sponsoring them. Or even if not doing that, just saying that these people, I will be organizing some mentorship classes to come and talk to them and impact them. That person is a community hero. Now, if that community hero then has a greater impact in a wider community like Teacher Tabichi, he becomes a national hero. Teacher Tabichi was doing something for his local community in Nakuru County, but there's an example that he has set. And that example has an impact on others to emulate. That becomes a national hero. True?
No argument there.
No argument.
So on the political arena, how does one become a hero?
Impact. You are a politician, you form a foundation, and then this foundation is where you channel money and you donate money to churches. And
you can't come and say you built a road. You can't do that, I'm sorry. Because, I mean, what is expected of you, you cannot use that then to become a hero. That's your job. The things that you would see because like, Wanga, you want to use that example of her again. She was a politician, MP, many places where she then used her love and her passion to be able to get things done. But on a certain level, she did actually use her platform, the opportunities that she did have as a member of government to try and push for some of these things, having conversations with the stakeholders, pushing against the status quo to make sure that she could get in the door for some of these conversations.
I think a politician can also become a hero with the job that they're doing. If a politician, for example, goes to parliament and champions a certain cause, for example, you go to parliament and you're championing the cause for women empowerment, for girl child, for people to be recognized at work, for youth development, for the rights of the marginalized, or for the rights of people living with disabilities, and you push that agenda and you even get a law passed in parliament, you've become a hero. You've done your job, yes, but you see, anybody could have come up with that. You actually came up with it. You went round the assembly. You convinced people why they need to rally behind your cause. You championed a cause. You become a hero.
So would you argue then that this gentleman by the name of Joe Donde, that Donde bill, which in my interpretation, of course, sought to tame the banks, would that man be counted as a hero?
Probably. Or even the current one, June Jomo, whose law was now just the other day reversed. Anyway, happy Mashujaa Day. Now we want to start naming heroes from your local community, from around the country. Let's just put in names and say, why do you nominate this person to be a hero? We want you to nominate 2 people as national heroes and tell us why are they heroes, even if not at the national level, at your community level. Why would you say that this person ought to be recognized today, this Mashujaa Day, as a hero? We'll be taking your calls shortly. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We've been live on KTN Home from 7 a.m. now coming up to 5 minutes to 9. Join us again tomorrow on KTN Home 7 to 9. But this conversation is live every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
So you said Joe Donde to you is a hero.
No, I was asking whether he qualifies because you see our banks.
What was the impact of the Donde bill? Well, it didn't pass, okay. But what
the impact
what was the impact of his campaign during that time?
You know, banks had free reign in determining just how they function. Of course, we have a central bank that's supposed to regulate the functions.
Yeah.
But within the ambit of regulation, a lot of the things that the banks wouldn't qualify as being directly to the benefit of their partners, meaning their account holders. Okay? So what the bill sought to do was to simply bring some rationality to the way banks function. Let me give you a little background to this. Huh? What the banks are doing now is something that they did then. They didn't start yesterday. Because the banks could lend the government money directly through by buying bills, interest rates went through the roof. And so it made a lot of sense for banks to simply give money to the government by the bonds. Now, what this happens then, what this means is that then there wasn't enough money for circulation. You could apply for a loan, you just never get it. And you see, the banks don't have to explain to you why you didn't get a loan. No, not in any detail. If you don't qualify, they tell you don't qualify, you don't qualify. All right? But there was something else. There was also this matter of banks who were owed money determining how best to dispose of the property you had used as collateral.
Right.
For instance, you may have paid 3/4 of what the loan was, but if you failed to pay, it's like they sold it as they saw fit.
You didn't do anything.
No, they sold it. Meaning, they could sell it for whatever amount they wanted, and to your disadvantage again. And it wasn't happening in one bank. It was happening all over the landscape. So it became a subject of debate, among other things. Now, what the bill sought to do, again, with the issue of debt, the banks, the interest rate just kept rising and rising and rising. I mean, you could begin with 10,000 shillings, and before you knew it, you owed 10 million. Now, this bill sought to put a ceiling on it that beyond having paid for the principal and beyond a certain interest margin, you cannot actually go beyond that. You simply cannot. So, from what I read and understood then, the banking fraternity went into a complete spin and started talking sense and wanted conversations and wanted this and wanted the other. But it brought sanity.
So that was activism by Joe Donde.
It was activism in Parliament. Now, what I'm saying is...
the impact of that was that there was now a conversation.
There was a conversation.
There was enlightenment for the customers, and there was a pause moment for the banks.
Yes, and there was now, they began a motion or a process where banks now started considering the so-called common mwananchi. Around that same period and slightly beyond it, what happened was that many banks, the big ones, started closing their branches and consolidating. And usually it was the big foreign-owned banks. Consolidating means they shut and sold out very, very many branches. Why? They wanted a certain clientele who had a certain kind of income, and they seem to focus on that. I don't know what thinking led to that, but they forgot the whole function and purpose of banking, complete.
Right.
Now, that period, as I said, was made possible simply because they could lend directly to the government. Now, of course, with circumstances, things change, isn't it?
Yep.
And so when they changed, and remember, the foreign-owned banks were actually the biggest banks even then. Suddenly, that's when other banks started coming up because they were offering the very things that these other big banks didn't open. I've given an example of how I remember things changing. I was informed by my bank that I needed to have 10,000 shillings in my account constantly for it to remain an account. And that was my entire salary.
Imagine. 10,000 bob is at the minimum balance.
So you thought, no, this one.
How do we go about
How
this?
is this? You go
So
around
you
doing this
reverted
one.
to mattress bank.
Yes.
It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. This conversation continues in the next hour. Happy Mashujaa Day. Let's identify and recognize our Mashujaas in our community. Who would you nominate as your Shujaa today? Who is it that you nominate as your Shujaa today? 0719-012-600. We'll be picking your calls. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
There's no
Traffic.
today, unfortunately, or fortunately for most people. So Mombasa Road is looking pretty good all the way from Mombasa Road through to Westlands. It's looking good, guys. Like we had said earlier, we don't have much traffic today. On Thika Road, where there's a bit of an issue, that seems to have been sorted out, and so you will be having good times on the roads this morning. However, we're asking you to please take it easy because you don't want any accidents that we can definitely avoid. Yes. Get stuck somewhere, do let us know. Still young in the day, and people might be getting out right about now, but let's see what it looks like in a short while, shan't we? All right. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter or text us on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
After 9, happy Mashujaa Day, this 20th day of October 2020. Wherever you are tuned in this morning, 94.4 in Nairobi or 97.7 in Malindi, Njeri, 90.9, Eldoret, 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, Kisumu, 102.5, 87.9 in Mombasa. I said 94.4 in Nairobi, and I'm repeating. Or Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or spicefm.co.ke. Who would you nominate as your Shujaa this morning? 0719-012-600. As we wait for your calls, C.T. Muga will remind us today's proverb.
Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool.
Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool. Good one. It's a good one.
It's a good one?
It's a good one, that one.
You know, if you ask very many people growing up, depending on the generation they belong to, many of them will actually consider their parents the heroes. There was a period in women never went to school. They were not permitted. It wasn't a popular thing. And their parents who actually went against that particular grain and took their girl child to school, in that person's eyes, their parents would be the hero. Because in the absence of that decision that went against the grain, they would never be able to do the things that they did. There are people who will single out a parent and say it was my father. Others will single out a mother and say it was my mother who did this. Because they look back and they realized that if the steps that were taken had not been taken by these individuals, they would never have achieved the things that they have achieved in life. So I have found, when you talk about heroes and heroism, the first thought that comes to my mind, of course, is action movie heroes. Okay, and why they're heroes is because they always save the day.
Like Superman.
Yes.
Okay.
Though what I have found, they are, and specifically from Hollywood, but they are filmmakers, for instance. Say filmmakers in France. They have a totally different view of this. Heroes in movies don't always live, they die.
Yeah.
They die with more frequency than they actually live. So there's a tragedy attached to heroism that is actually very interesting. So if you're accustomed to looking at heroes, if it's in the West, riding off into the sunset, or the hero is usually a man and there's some beautiful girl whom they're attached to at the end of the movie, it's all good and well. But so if that's what you're accustomed to, and then someone brings this picture of this person who you feel and resonate with, has done wonderful things, and then they die, you feel it's a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah, I mean, why should the hero die?
Heroes are not supposed to die. Heroes are supposed to be to live on indefinitely.
Or at least their memory.
Interesting. You talk about how people then would identify a hero. Maybe saying there's a certain, even if not direct parent, maybe there's an uncle or a great uncle or a distant relative who championed a certain cause, who is the one who came and convinced their parents, you know what, no, take this child to school. Depending on the generation, like you said, take this child to school. And not just for this one person. They went around very many homes and they are the ones who advocated, let's take our children to school. Let's ensure that they stay in school. Whatever is needed. What do we need? Do we need to build a classroom? All right. This person is in the forefront of mobilizing the community to then come together and bring resources together so that a new classroom can be built. That is a hero. And it's very clear how this person is a hero. Impact and how they've impacted others. Who would you nominate as your hero today? That's what we are asking. 0719-012-600. So we're going to start with CT Muga. Not that I'm nominating you as a hero. No.
CT's not feeling very happy about that statement. Just understand.
Actually, I do understand. It wasn't a Freudian slip.
No.
It's called engaging a reverse gear. The man nominates me.
And then he realizes.
No, this guy doesn't actually qualify.
Toakitu.
Yes, and then I can be renominated. Yes. The nomination is still in play. Because if I don't Toakitu, he'll nominate somebody else.
Yeah.
I have only 2 slots.
You see, the thing is, if you ask me who I consider a hero, it would be people who have impacted my life. Yeah, those are people who qualify, in my mind, as being heroes. Not people who've done wonderful things for the country. No. They are the second and third tier.
All right. So your first would be person who is a hero to you.
To me.
And then person then who would be a hero to the nation.
The person who would be a hero to the nation comes second, at best.
Okay.
But the person whose efforts I could see made it possible for me to do certain things in my life that I would otherwise not have done. That person, number one, whether they were my school teacher, whether they were my parents, or whether it was one parent who stood out better than the other, they come first. Yes.
So who is that person?
I know you're waiting for me to tell you, and I'm not going to tell you. No. If I tell you, then the discussion will come to an end. I want this discussion to continue.
But then, okay, so you can do that tomorrow. Today is a day for national heroes.
Yes.
So nominate national hero.
All right, since you're so eager to nominate them,
City Heroes Day.
All right,
it's okay, but
let's take turns. I have at least premised it. I've given a platform on which to operate. You next. Tell us, how would you choose your hero?
But me, I'll be last.
Look at you. Let me just follow in the same footsteps as CT without actually naming who the person is, right? Okay, maybe at some point. But it would, for me, because of, I would definitely look at those who are doing something that would impact the lives of those who are less fortunate, or impact the lives of those who wouldn't have an opportunity to excel, or wouldn't even have an opportunity at getting, or or because of misinformation, then just don't know. So I mean, one of those big ones in this country. I mean, it's obviously not my country of birth and origin and choice. Anyway, sorry,
not your country of choice.
Moving on.
You're changing your mind.
So I would definitely go for the anti-FGMers in this country, and the two that stand out for me are, and I can call them by their first name, Josephine and Pauline, because two women who were circumcised, but then came out and realized that what was actually happening to them was in their later life was then actual mutilation, and then they wanted to save girls from having to go through this, and they've basically put their lives on hold. If you hear their stories, they've put their lives on hold and really not be able to develop their family life, their home life, their careers in the way in which they'd want to make sure that they're saving thousands of girls every year from going through the cut and then having to go through life with any kind of prejudice. So, I mean, I look at them and I think that you stand in the face of tradition. You have men and women who are the harbingers of tradition and who are saying, look, you cannot fly in the face of tradition. This is something that we have done for hundreds of years. Who are you to do something like this? And stand in the face of that. And again, to save thousands of girls from this mutilation, to save thousands of girls from then this early marriage whereby they're not enjoying their childhood. So, I mean, there are many people that stand out for me that are not celebrated on a daily basis, or even are not. You would never hear their names on days like this, October 20th, any year. And so those are just one of those. And I also think of those people in communities who are making sure, we may not even know it, who are making sure that there are people who get at least one hot meal every day. And there are people who take out of the little that they earn and work a 9-to-5 job, but take a little bit out of something that they earn to make sure that somebody's getting a meal every day that they would not be able to. And people like that exist in this country. And so those are people, for me, that should be feted. And we might hear their names every now and then. But in terms of, because you know me, I'm for the people. So for me, those are of the many, those are two that stand out as I think of it now.
Big one. I think I'm going to nominate somebody who just falls in that category that you just mentioned last. People who take their time, people who have invested their time, their resources, their money to for the betterment of their communities. And one of them is that founder of that organization that's been working in Kibra. During this COVID-19 period, we've had, it's been mentioned very many times, and this is SHOFCO. SHOFCO is Shining Hope for Communities, SHOFCO. And I think the founder and director of this was once featured on KTN. His name is Kennedy Odede. Talks about, I mean, he grew up here, he had no opportunities himself, and then he thought, all right, let me just organize. So he mobilized the youth. They came together. They had the idea of what can we do? We can clean the environment. From cleaning the environment, what else can we do? We can then move this into a business. From that into something else. It also now became SHOFCO, which is running various institutions in Kibra, which is supporting various causes in Kibra. And others have been able to come in and work with SHOFCO around that. Very many people who do such kind of things deserve the national honors. When somebody is at that level where they are able then to be also to have an organization that has structures that can work with others who can plug in. All these organizations that we've had that are supporting, for example, the people during this COVID-19 period have been able to plug into SHOFCO. That shows you that this is somebody who is out there and wants to do for the betterment of the community. So I nominate that gentleman. I think his name is Kennedy Odede. I've never met the person, him in person. I've only seen his story. I've heard the story of SHOFCO, but it's an interesting story. Karima is calling in from Malindi. Karima, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Mashujaa Day, Karima.
Happy Mashujaa Day to you too.
Who would you like to nominate as your Shujaa today?
Well, I just wanted to say that if you ask me who the heroes are, I'd say every single person who wakes up every day with an aim to create a positive change. whether to the community or even if it's to a single individual. It could be someone who works in a profession or even a single mother or a parent who's working so hard to create a change for their child. They say that, there's a rotten fruit in every tree. So some people might be in their profession just to get that paycheck at the end of the month or maybe for the title, but some are actually in it to create that change.
Yeah.
So whether you're somebody who's working or somebody who's just walking through the street, you see a poor lady who maybe hasn't eaten for days and you decide to help her out.
Yep.
I say if you are out there to create a change with the aim of creating a change, then you are my hero today.
Very well said, and thank you very much, Karima.
Thank you.
Happy Mashujaa Day.
Happy Mashujaa Day to you too, guys.
Thank
Thank
you. 0719-012-600.
You know, as Karima was talking, my mind went back to the conversations I've had with people of my generation and those who of the next generation. And there's something that they always point out. When you have 5 children, you have few. It's usually 6 going up to 10 and even beyond. What they marvel at is they look at what it's fathers who earned most. They look at what the father earned, how the mother managed to manage this money, and how all of them managed to go to school. They marvel. How on earth, everything, how did they manage to do this?
While at the same time, creating wealth.
While at the same time, allowing even relatives to come and live with you. It's something they marveled. Now, that's why I brought in the issue of parents being heroes. Because you marvel. They set a certain foundation. You wonder, how on earth did they do all these things? It isn't as though, okay, the shilling, the earnings were meager. You could see the cost of living was lower. But still, given the numbers that this money had to be divided to, my goodness. If you're talking about self-sacrifice and smart management of resources, they actually take the cup completely.
Yeah.
Because they did it. And it wasn't one parent. It was many, many parents. You know, I used to think that mothers had a bigger role. I realized, no. It was actually a joint effort. It didn't look like it was a joint effort, but it was.
But it was.
Yes. It's just that roles seem different, and in many cases they were different. For instance, in many homes, including the home I grew up in, the person who was the disciplinarian was my mother. And looking back, she was very good at it.
Yeah?
Yes.
And then there was a Supreme Court.
Yes.
And you just needed to be told.
Yes.
Wait till your father comes.
My goodness gracious me. It's just that this idea of running away from home hadn't entered our heads.
They operated in congruence. They did. They operated. It's just that sometimes you wouldn't be able to
Good
see.
cop, bad cop at some point. Let's go back to the phone lines. Samuel calling in from Meru. Good morning, Samuel.
Good morning, Spice FM.
How are
you?
My name is Samuel.
Yes.
Calling you from Meru. Okay, in terms of who is a hero, I think it's a bit relative. We cannot have a common consensus on who is a hero. But for me, I think public servants, teachers, for example, teachers, the police, the nurses, and all health workers, I consider them as heroes. I think today we need to celebrate them. They, brave a lot of things, from poor pay, poor working conditions. So I think we need to take time and also appreciate public servants.
All right.
Especially in Kenya and other third world countries, especially in Africa. So I think that's my contribution.
Thank you, Samuel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Abdul Salam in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
We're very well, thank you.
Yeah, first I would like to congratulate all our heroes who made our Kenyans to be what it is. And to celebrate it is because of them. Secondly, I would like to say all Kenyans are heroes with the situation that we are going. We've been keeping it up, and the spirit of Kenyans are very high. I just wanted to say something which is very, very important with the situation that we have. We need to remember that people have actually shed blood for us to be free. People have shed blood for us to be what we are, to lead our own country. We should be very, very careful with our Kenya. We should take care about it. We should always remember that because of them we are celebrating today, and we should not destroy what they have built. Their foundation is strong. We need to think about it. With the situation that we are going, we need our Kenya. We need the free Kenya. We need to have a Kenya that our kids can actually remember our forefathers who fought for us, and we should be preparing their life to be the thing that they want to see the Kenya, like any other developed world.
Thank you very much, Abu Salam.
Thank you.
Now, those two. So one says everybody ought to be recognized as a hero today. The other one says, let's look at public servants. They're the unsung heroes of this country. Doctors, teachers, others who work in the public service. Those ones should also be recognized as heroes.
It does
make sense?
Nope.
Actually, it would. If I wouldn't lump them all into one group.
No, I wouldn't either.
I would talk of individuals. I would talk of individuals whose work has stood out. You see, the thing about heroism that we're not disagreeing is there's something that someone has to do which is exceptional, something that not everyone is able to do, or if they were able to do, they didn't do. Remember, when you asked about the two individuals we're talking about, I said, no, everybody, people got that opportunity, but they didn't get to that level. They didn't achieve certain things. So I think the thing that is common is that everybody has some hero. And what I'd like to understand is when they think of the hero, how they define their hero. Because, believe me, anyone who is listening will have their hero. Someone who they feel, and they'll have a definition for it. Now, and this is where Mheshimiwa here may be right. At some level, you may think you can't sort of like have a general description, but actually you can. You can. Because the thread that runs through all of it is something has to be done that isn't a run-of-the-mill activity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go to Kitale. And Kalistas is calling in from Kitale. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Good morning.
Happy Mashujaa Day, Kalistas.
Happy Mashujaa Day too.
All right. Who would you like to celebrate this day?
Today I want to celebrate my parents. They are my Shujaas. After taking care of me from the childhood until now I'm adult. My father and my mother are my Mashujaa.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So beyond that level, the personal level, if you are told now to contribute to who then should be recognized nationally, or just let's say in your county as the hero in the county, who would you nominate?
I will nominate these people who are dealing with the FGM. Yeah, the people who are fighting FGM in our country. Those are the people I will nominate. Number two, I'll also nominate the people who are frontliners fighting against coronavirus. The health workers. Those are my Mashujaa.
Okay.
We have time.
Yes.
Asante sana.
Thank
Asante
you.
sana, Kalistas. Let's go to
God bless
Anthony.
you.
Anthony in Kisumu. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Spice FM. Happy Mashujaa Day to Eric, Nduh, and Latiff. And
Yeah. Leave that other one alone. Happy Mashujaa Day to you.
You
Anthony.
too. Just stop.
yes,
It's okay.
my Mashujaas are the people we usually antagonize so much. The policemen. When we had this pandemic of COVID, I'm told they were not even given an allowance. And they were like the people who are, apart from the front line, who are the medics, who are doing all that with those astronomical PPEs when we fall with the flu. The policemen were exposing themselves. The policemen barely had a gun, a baton, and some cheap face mask.
Yep.
And they did it until now. We are being told we have the second wave. So to all the policemen in Kenya, to be specific, I'll point one, County Commander in Siaya, Francis Kooli. That guy even made a booth a spraying booth entering his office, I think from his money, because I think the police didn't have such a budget. So he said, as we go outside there to protect you guys, when you come to our offices, at least to wash you and sanitizer. Francis Kooli, the county police commander in Siaya, is a hero.
Very good.
I'm told he's an OGW something on his title. If there's one higher than that, EBS, wherever he should be given.
All right.
December.
That's a very good one.
My second hero is, I think, the people in Spice FM. You've radicalized the radio in a good way, per se, by not just bringing comedy in the morning. At least we can call in each and every morning and have mature, intelligent talk.
Thank you, sir.
You are heroes.
Thank you very much.
Might not know it, but in Kisumu, probably I say you are. I rarely call on radio because I'm not a lawyer. No pun intended. But Spice FM made me to call each and every morning because of the three heroes right on studio. There was one who went, I don't know where she went to, but wherever she is, also she's a hero.
Asante sana.
Asante sana, Anthony.
Can I call in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Good morning.
City Muga.
But
If
before
I
you
want
do
to
that,
let's hear from Stephen. Stephen in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, you want to know who I want to celebrate as my hero?
Yep.
Apparently nobody in Kenya, nationally nobody.
Yes.
I find no reason to celebrate anybody in our nation.
Okay.
Because apparently Kenya is full of disappointment, left, right, and center. People are supposed to do what they are supposed to do, but they are not doing what they are supposed to do.
Are you talking about political leadership, national leadership, or everywhere in the society?
I'm talking about nationally. Political, all forms of leadership. I find no reason to celebrate them. I have individuals that I can celebrate at their own individual capacity, like Honorable Suleiman Shahbal. I can celebrate some few individuals who have been able to change and transform the country in their own individual small ways.
What about Suleiman Shahbal stands out for you? What makes him a hero in your eyes?
This guy has worked entirely in transforming the economy of major institutions. He has brought some good institutions like Gulf Energy into the country. He was among the few people who developed a bank in Kenya. He has worked tirelessly. Every time I read his posts, he's always encouraging people in their simple ways in leadership. It's the reason why I can celebrate that dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephen, thank you very much. Nationally, nobody.
Maybe City Muga, he's a good researcher. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, sir.
City Muga. City Muga is a hero. Sawa. Congratulations to you. So, you wanted to call in. Yes, City. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. When I think of people who have brought about change in my mind, there's one gentleman whom I met recently. I'd heard of him before, but I met him recently, and I listened to what he had to say, and I marveled at his conviction. And I marvel at the support that his wife gave him. And I marvel at what he had done and just the story of his life and what he has to say about trying to bring change. This is a simple man whom you cannot say is wealthy or has a massive resources. The resource is his family. Boniface Mwangi.
That maverick.
That gentleman.
Boniface Mwangi.
Boniface Mwangi.
He's a Shujaa.
He's a Shujaa. He is. He is what I would call a modern day Shujaa.
All right.
Yes. And the genuine article. Yes.
Many would agree with you.
Yes.
And then there are those who would disagree. You'd expect nothing less.
I would expect nothing less, really, surely. I mean, you make such a statement and you actually think you will not be challenged.
We have our Shujaa calling in. Good morning, Zachary.
Oh, good morning, guys.
Very well, Shujaa, Zachary.
Thank you. Thank you. How is everyone doing?
Good, thank you.
Everyone is doing well.
Okay, so am I and my wife and everybody who is around me. Now, first of all, the idea of heroism is neither here nor there. though I wouldn't say that I don't have anyone that I can celebrate as a hero, the idea of heroism remains fake, because even I myself, I consider myself a hero because of the things that I've been able to do. So I celebrate myself. But let me join the queue by saying that I celebrate those people who take care of the orphans. Yeah, all those people who are taking care of the helpless kids in orphanages, in the streets. Those people are my heroes, because I have got a soft place for kids, young people growing up. The fathers who are them and the mothers who are working very hard, especially at this very difficult time, to make sure that their kids have something to eat, they have a shelter, they have clothes, and they go to school, and they manage to show them love. Now, the other two people that I may want to celebrate are the people who have revolutionized our lives. And let me posthumously celebrate the late Mr. Mike, the Bob Corrimer. During his tenure, he actually did so many things to Safaricom that actually have come to ease down our lives. I also celebrate his, I don't know whether to call him predecessor, Mr. Michael Joseph.
He's both
successor
and predecessor.
yeah. The one who was used to be there before him. Yeah, what do you call him?
He's a predecessor, and then he also came after him, so he also becomes successor.
Yeah, I know there exists such a word, although I cannot praise it actually. So, and also you guys in Safari in the Spice FM, yeah. Let me celebrate the person who came up with the idea of Spice FM in general. You know, just like the guy who is in Kisumu, you guys have redefined radio.
Very good.
Okay, and also Marimanto, I celebrate him. He's a good guy. He's a comedian also. And a comedian by excellence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you very much, Zachary. And have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
You too, man. Let's take a break now at 9:30. Take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we pick your calls again. Who would you nominate as a hero today? Who would you like to celebrate as your Mashujaa today? This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
Nairobi is overcast at 17 degrees. We'll see a high of 23 today, and thunderstorms expected later. 18 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 21 and lows of 13, and thunderstorms are also in the forecast. It's cloudy in Njeri at 17, highs of 22 and lows of 14, and a chance of a sprinkle later on. Eldoret also will experience rains in the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 11. And in Mombasa, it's mostly cloudy at 28, going to highs of 29 and down to lows of 24. Malindi is partly cloudy at 28, highs of 29 and lows of 25, and a chance of rains there. Also in Kisumu, it's mostly cloudy at 24, highs of 26 and lows of 19, with a chance of showers later on. Kakamega is forecasted to experience thunderstorms later with highs of 23 and lows of 16. Kampala, 21 degrees, is mostly cloudy, highs of 24 and lows of 19 with a chance of rains later. Dar es Salaam, mostly cloudy at 28. It'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 22 and partly cloudy conditions throughout the day. It's mostly sunny and warming up in Johannesburg at 23 degrees. The high will be 31 and lows of 16. Lagos is this morning partly cloudy. There's a chance of rains, but the high will be 31 and lows of 24. Let's take a look then east. And in Beijing, it's going into evening with a haze over the city, highs of 19 and lows of 8. And in London, it is cloudy and rainy at the same time. 14 degrees, we'll see highs of 18 today. Looking then into Paris, where it started off quite clear. It remains that way, 12 degrees and rising higher to highs of 17. And a chance of rains to cool things down later, coming down to a low of 11. And finally, for now, in New York, it is Tuesday morning at 16 degrees. It's clear skies, and we'll see highs of 22, but it'll cloud over later, coming down to a low of 10.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so today has been a
Traffic.
good day, one for the books in terms of traffic. We know that Mashujaa is contributing to all of this. Not much traffic anywhere you look today, guys. It's flowing quite smoothly. You'll be able to get where you're going in good time. But we ask you to be careful, though, because the roads are kind of slippery, especially in Nairobi. Inbound, we'll see an influx of traffic later, I'm sure, as people get back into work tomorrow. But for today, it's looking pretty good. The accidents have been cleared up on Thika Road in and outbound, as we had seen before, but still asking everybody to, again, be careful. Just in case, through the day, you see something we should know about, let us know. Spice FMKE or text 40127.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
We are looking at Mashujaa Day today and nominating heroes from across the society. Many comments coming in on Spice FM KE, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
Sure. A lot of people celebrating their parents in terms of the sacrifice that parents have made for them. They wouldn't be able to be where they are today if not for the sacrifice that their parents made. Standing out is what Lela says. Standing out amongst the crowd and making a sacrifice for me in ways nobody else would have done. Otieno says, athletes and sportsmen should be our heroes. These individuals raise our flag internationally, and at a point, the nation stands to celebrate their success. However, they should learn from the likes of Sadio Mane and Marcus Rashford.
Sadio
Mane. And Marcus Rashford by giving back to make the celebration realistic. Someone whose contribution to your life has positively impacted hope and has extraordinarily inspired change in your life, to me, qualifies to be a hero. And Japis celebrates Daniel Oreng Nyayo and Michael Omondi of Eldoret. These are his heroes.
Does he say why?
No. The Rarieda legislator Otiende Amolo is being celebrated today, aside from Vincent's parents, as a hero for the housing project he initiated for the less fortunate in his constituency. Shelter is one of the basic needs which one lacks, and if you don't have, it causes discomfort. So long live Mheshimiwa Otiende Amolo, according to one.
All right, go to the phone lines. Elijah, good morning.
Morning, how are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Happy Mashujaa Day, Elijah.
Happy Mashujaa Day to you. There's a caller who called in, I think from Kisumu, and lauded you guys for what you're doing. I want to echo that sentiment.
Allah.
It's been a long time since we've had mature discussion. On TV, all you see is Latino soaps. On radio, all you hear is perversion. So it's very refreshing to hear mature discussion for 4 hours.
Right.
So thank you for that. The other two Shujaas that I can point out. One is our Chief Justice. He has stood in the face of adversity. And one of the things that I always look back on and marvel is how when he was being interviewed by the JSC and he was asked about corruption, he just said, bring that Bible here. And he took it and said, I have never and will never take a bribe. And no one challenged him. That speaks to his character.
Yeah.
No, you know, in this country,
And
people
many years
will
down the line,
rabble-rouse
we still haven't heard
on
anyone
tarmac.
coming out to say, you know what?
Exactly. So that for me is a marker in a very dark world. The other guy is the Makueni governor. The stuff he has done and his track record so far is truly impressive. And I just wish the rest of Kenya could go benchmark there as opposed to all those trips they were doing. I think that's one of the silver linings of COVID, that benchmarking has stopped. But what he has done with the resources he had is commendable. Those are two leaders that I think are current present-day heroes.
Very well said, and actually I agree with you as well. Elijah, thank you very much. You're also our hero because you have been a part of this show as well from the very beginning, from the very first time you called, and every time you call, and your contributions as well.
Fantastic.
We celebrate
Thank you, Elijah.
Thanks.
Hillary in Rusinga, good morning.
Morning, Stasha FM.
Yes.
Good morning.
My heroes today are specifically Stasha FM guys. Since I knew the radio, maybe it was around March when I came from school. And I've been glued to the radio like a madman. They just did the way I want it. And they have changed me in all facets of life, I can say so, from relationships, politically and socially. I contribute to you as my heroes today.
Thank you very much, Hillary.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. Who would you nominate as your national hero on this very day? Very many also comments coming in. And other people also. I feel what Elijah is saying. And you look at Chief Justice Maraga, what he's done.
What he stands for.
What he stands for. Kivuta Kibwana, what he's done, what he stands for, and very many others. There's also somebody that is... This nomination from you may be somewhat controversial in some quarters. Isaac Mwaura, the nominated senator. For me, he's a national hero because of what he stands for and what he's represented. You know, Isaac Mwaura lives with albinism. He has, brought albinism to the national platform. He has used his platform to basically highlight the plight of living with disability. The first time he was nominated to Parliament was for that. Then now he is in the Senate. He represents the same. There's a time when there's this young girl who was the number one in Standard 8 countrywide, and she was a girl with albinism. And, she also now brought in that issue of... so people start to understand. So what is it about albinism? What do the people with albinism live with, and what do they go through on a daily basis? It's important that we also do not forget such other conversations. So for me, somebody else is actually nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, controversial as he is in how he speaks. But I think he brings out a message that is a very important one. So 0719-012-600. More comments as well coming in on social media.
Yeah, it's interesting because just as CT brought that up, other people have talked about Boniface Mwangi, 3 people now, talking about the fact that he, in his quest for good governance, has been relentless and putting out sacrificing what many others wouldn't to get Kenyans to see the truth. He remains a hero in the minds of many. God created all mankind as heroes. We are the ones who classify them according to Kim. And another one here, again, I'm going to nominate my parents. I probably would have been, I'm going to nominate my adopted parents. Otherwise, without them, I probably would have not been where I am today, having been dumped on the streets. And again, so you can imagine somebody's life would not have been without that move of bringing them in from the streets and taking them up.
Yep.
Life would never have been lived.
True. And yes, there are very many people who do these small acts of kindness. You find somebody has dedicated some piece of land, for example, in the support of establishment of a children's center, and children who grow up in that home really look back and they're like, this is not just like a parent. This is a very important person in my life.
If I talk about
and they impact our society.
Think about that. There are people in many, many societies and communities who have done precisely that. Donated land to build a school, donated land to build a clinic.
I hear you say that, and I think immediately, I know, I mean, here in Kenya, Charles Muga, just, over the hill here, and what he
Which
did.
hill?
Okay.
Moore Hills.
Moore Hills.
Yes. So.
Over the hill here.
and far away.
Could be Gong Hills.
And far away still.
Yes. Anyway.
Uh-huh.
I mean, his story is really interesting in what he was able to do. And took in children from the street into his home in Tarbo in Eldoret. And his wife comes home and sees dirty children in my home. What on earth is going on here? And she said, you know what? These kids stole my headlights, right? And I had to ask them really what was going on. And they gave me their story about how life was difficult for them, being in and out of juvenile remand. Today, he runs the children's home in Kenya that cares for 5,000 Kenyan children. All the land that he has dedicated to this. I mean, he has been celebrated. He's been feted in the country. But that has not stopped. He continues to do this and says, any child who doesn't have a home then is welcome at Muli Children's Family. And has homes in Yatta, has homes in Dalani and Matu, and says, you know what? It can't be that children are on the street.
Yeah.
And he's, yes, getting donations from outside, but used his entire fortune to make sure that no other child within his power then would be on the street.
Tear-jerking stories.
I know.
Mawia in Islay, good morning.
Oh, good morning, good morning. How are you all?
We're fine,
We're well, thank you.
Yeah. My hero
is
the late Kajwang, the Minister for Immigration. He was the late Kajwang. He really revolutionized the immigration department.
Okay, what did he do?
And he really gave service to the public. Because that time, the immigration was in a mess. You go there, the file is lost. The file is always disappearing. But he made a system that tracing the file. So and so has taken it, and so the immigration during his time worked very well.
Great.
Plus the issuance of ID cards. He used even to send his officers to the schools.
Yep.
From 4s above 18, they used to be given ID there. So I think he did. Other ministers should emulate this, the late Kajwang. He did a lot of good service to the public.
Asante sana Mawia.
Thank you very much indeed, Eric.
Asante, have a good day in Islay. He recognizes the late Minister Kajwang posthumously, and he was a senator by the time he was passing away, for the work that he did during the time when he served in the cabinet in that docket of immigration. You can tell that Mawia is talking from personal experience. The way you feel, he's talking from an experience that he went through, and he feels, why not for this particular person doing what they did, then a lot of people that I know would not have benefited or would not have gotten the services that they so deserved. Right?
Sure. Okay. Some more? Dave Ogola says, when New York City was being put on lockdown, KQ pilot Captain Daudi Kimuyu Kibati helped evacuate stranded Kenyans and paid the ultimate price for his heroic efforts. Could have said no, but I guess he went ahead and took that, and that's something that stands out, especially coming out of COVID times. Yet somebody else who says, all upstanding Kenyans, Chief Justice David Maraga and more, so my parents, as well as you guys. Levi says, in all our heroic mentions, let's not forget Okoh Matata, who makes sure that any case that would have any kind of civil or social issues is brought before the courts.
Indeed. Okoh Matata. Some people will find that this guy is a nuisance. Others will say that this guy is a hero. In all, one thing that people cannot really argue about is whether he goes and takes a case to court that is of public interest.
Out of
and that's
his
why this case is
comfort.
actually taken up by the courts.
Is it possible to be a good nuisance?
It is.
Right? Like a bee. You know, like a bee. You don't want it buzzing in your ear, but
Yes,
produces
but
honey. It's great.
You see, litigation that benefits the common man, nobody stands out more like this gentleman.
No.
No one. No one. Whether it is the civil society, it doesn't really matter whether it's a church.
It doesn't matter.
This person stands out. He's way head and shoulders above people who actually fight for what we may call individual rights of the Mwananchi.
Yep.
Yes.
In the end, there are people who would argue, who sponsors him, how does he finance his cases. You see, the bottom line is it a case for the general good of the public? Is it a case that then also opens up avenues for conversation at a national level? Like that case that you talked about that was thrown out because of technicality. He's challenging the monopoly of Kenya power.
Yes, and he's saying it goes against our very laws. And the only reason it was struck out was on a technicality. Not that he didn't have a case.
You have not exhausted all avenues that you should have exhausted by the time you get to this court.
This is the port of last call. So you exhaust the other ones, then you come here.
But it's actually, I also join in that, in celebrating Okio Mtata.
True. I mean, look, if anything, he would go it would be interesting to look at what his library look like in terms of, cases that he's brought forward and said, you know what, look, the people of Kenya are going to suffer if this thing goes through and I'm going to take it up. Again, you're not really asking where does the money come from? How? No. Even if you had bundles and oodles of money, the people who don't want to go out of their way, okay, the sacrifice of drafting this, getting these legal minds and, putting all of this together, the sacrifice that has been made, you feel the impact for sure. And I think he's won sometimes,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, I think he always wins. And this is why I'm going to say he always wins. See, he has actually made it normal for people to challenge things that are wrong in the country, in our courts.
Because when he started, people thought he had gone off his rockers, right?
No, the first time he actually changed himself to the police headquarters. What is it called?
Vigilance House.
Vigilance House. He tied himself there in chains.
Chained himself there.
Yes, and people thought, goodness, this is taking drama to a rather extreme, isn't it?
Then he starved himself at some point.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Let's see if we can get him. John, let's see if we can get Okio Mtata and just tell him that he is being celebrated as well today among the people who are national heroes on this particular day.
Has he even been given a national commendation?
I wonder. Maybe something as from the very low levels of head of state commendation.
But such a person would be such an irritant to those who are in power.
That they would not feel the need to honor such a person. And this is why we say as a community, this honors should be community bestows honors on its people. Not the other way around. Not the government looking at and rewarding people with an honor here and there. No.
You become an MP and you're given some commendation. Yeah. Surely.
I mean.
You guys don't feel that vibe.
No. EGH. Job application, you get it, you're being paid for it. Why are we commending you?
You applied for the job.
Yes, you did.
They didn't come and fish you from your house.
No.
And say, come do this.
And you're the best applicant.
Yeah. We've seen the work that you've been doing. Come be member of parliament.
Yes.
You came and said, I want to do this.
And one could argue there are very few selection systems that are better than a voting system.
Yep.
So you've gotten the job. And you're being paid for it well. And then we give you a commendation for which part of this process are we giving you a commendation for?
Stepping up to the plate and knocking it out of the park. Speaking of which, Shirage Mwai says, I did my small research and I nominate Mwalimu Charles Muga as a Mashujaa for his good research works on HIV, and he has helped the society fight the pandemic. Kudos.
Mwalimu umejulikana. Tomboya Ogola also says, City Muga is my true hero, and for many of us around Nyanza region, his personal touch on almost lost hope people brought back lives to many of our people during his work at Faces, Kisumu. What is Faces?
Family AIDS Care and Education Services.
Family AIDS Care and Education Services,
yes.
Faces. Let's hear from Samuel in Meru. Samuel, good morning.
Good morning, Spice FM.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well at Spice FM. I want to give two shout-outs. to one controversial person.
Yep.
Perceived controversial, that is Miguna. We shouldn't forget the role that he played in the 80s in agitating for multi-party reforms in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And also just speaking truth to power. Albeit, sometimes is abrasive way of doing the same.
Mm.
Then number 2 is Muhisa Kitui.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Muhisa Kitui, for his role that he played in opposition politics in the 90s, and also putting Kenya on the global map with his role at UNCTAD.
Mm.
So those are the 2 people I want to shout out
Thank you very much.
National heroes.
Thank you very much, Samuel.
Okay, thank you.
Who would you nominate as your national hero? 0719-012-600. We have about 3 minutes of nominations to go. Looking at many more nominations.
Actually, I'm just thinking of one. Our civil society. There are people who
collectively
stand out more
or
than the
people?
others. No, I'm talking collectively. Because they have...
If you don't want us to look collectively at the public service, why do you want us to look collectively at civil society?
Public service, unfortunately, have the ignominy of probably being referred to as public disservice. Okay? I'm talking about people who swim against the tide, people who position themselves in uncomfortable places to ensure that certain things which ought to be right are actually set right. And there are many such Kenyans who do precisely that. And they do that every single day. They will not let a wrong go unnoticed or unspoken of. That is heroism. If you're talking about people who stick their necks out, they stick their necks out. On that score, our church went to sleep. They begin to wake up now, but they went to sleep. And that is why I haven't mentioned them. It's now our religious fraternity are beginning to wake up and speak. But before that...
Had not really happened.
Before that?
No.
Before that.
Long before that, they would have been my heroes.
So where is the gap? Who are the last religious leaders who then would feel that and say this? From that point until now,
the period of the second liberation, we had very many religious people who stood out and they were known. They spoke, they stood, they were right there in the fight. But you see, that was a collective effort. So now, right now, they somehow thought we had reached the promised land and sat back. And we have not had a period in the history of this country where we have seen things going as wrong as they have in this period of time that we are in. We haven't. Anything that you thought couldn't happen in the extreme happened. So, those who stood out and spoken against it and challenged it, they have to be commended and they have to be considered as heroes.
Right.
I think so. And as we go, even as you remember, as we go into the years coming ahead, and you say that it's a day that has been set aside of national importance like this, then it's important that you don't have the normal, if it's a mindset change that needs to take place, that you don't have the normal where it is that it's just people who made an impact according to the purview of one set of people. But that all of these things being taken into consideration and be celebrated on a regular basis. That the people that you celebrated in 2020 may be the same people you celebrate in 2021, but then others are brought into the fold and they be celebrated as well. I believe that as we go and time continues to tick, that more and more people are making an impact, or at least the recognition of the impact that people may have made at present time should be then celebrated in the future. I think that's absolutely important to take into consideration. What it does is that it gives you a sense of achievement as an individual, but it also spurs it on in somebody who might be watching, who might be listening, who might be taking this in. And it helps everybody all round.
To recognize.
For sure.
As we talk about the religious leaders, and there are those that were very vocal at some point, and then there are those that were vocal, but maybe not even getting the wide platform. People like the Catholic priest in Mombasa, his name was in my mind just now as I was starting to talk about this. Father Gabriel Dolan.
Father Gabriel Dolan is a Mashujaa. He didn't have the title of being a bishop, but he's definitely, if you're talking
From
about
his
the rights
in
of the...
Kitale all the way to now...
You talk about civic rights, that gentleman has doggedly fought for those civic rights.
Yep.
He has.
So as we come to the end of today's show, we want to wish everybody a happy Mashujaa Day and all the Shujaas. Mashujaa, Mwalimu, Elder, C.T. Muga.
Your Excellency.
Your Excellency.
Thank you, Excellency.
Today's proverb.
Thank you, Your Highness. Other people's wisdom prevents a king from being called a fool. Short and sweet. And I said, in the abundance of wise counsel, there is much wisdom. Not just surrounding yourself with your cronies who probably just want to tell you what they think you want to hear, or choosing people who come from your community because you think you want to give them a job. Therein lies the crux of the matter, getting people who you know are right for the jobs that you want to give them.
That requires wisdom in the first place.
Yes, it does.
And
And if you don't have it, those who are around you, if you at least think along those lines, you will get people who will imbue on them the wisdom that they have. Yes.
Indeed. Asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room today, and we wish everybody happy Mashujaa Day. And even those that maybe are traveling to Kisii for the national celebrations, those who have traveled out of town, coming back tomorrow, we wish you Johnny Masses. Remember, be responsible on the roads today and every other day. Between now and 3 o'clock, it's uninterrupted music. This is Sugar and Spice and everything nice. Today is a Mashujaa Day playlist that's been prepared. And then we have the run of the mill. We've got Monique coming in at 3. We've got the adults in the room coming in at 7 to 10. And then we have Nduh Okoh coming in tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
Wow, with you and C.T. Muga.
Indeed. Say goodbye, Nduh.
Have a good day, guys. Be safe. Take care. Remember that we still have a spread of infections, guys. So
Corona bado iko Kenya.
It's still here.
Good morning. It's now 10 o'clock.